Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if the hatred of Konoha had turned Naruto towards the dark side. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It is said that within all of us, there are conflicting forces. Yin and yang, light and dark, good and evil. One cannot exist without the other. And yet, sometimes all it takes is a single action for us to choose which side we will favor. And once we choose that side, we may not have the option to choose the other. Then again, some people could care less. Uzumaki Naruto came into the world, innocent and pure, like all children. But he was cursed with something he had no control over. And that curse was the Kyuubi no Yoko, nine-tailed demon fox, the most powerful of the Bijus-tailed beasts, forced to be its jailer for the rest of his days. The person who gave him his fate before his death was the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, who sacrificed his life for the village. His final decree to the people of his home was that the child be treated as a hero. But the one thing the Yellow Flash didn't take into account was how powerful hatred can be. It can be a deadly and easily spread poison that can corrupt even the purest heart, whether they are man, woman or child. And it slowly did that to the hero of Konoha as the people showed their disdain for him. The cries of freak and monster, the daily beatings, the stares and glares that were filled with malice. It truly was as if they were denying him his right to live and exist amongst them. And the sins of the adults passed on to their children, denying him the feeling of having friends or people who care, something which is important for any child growing up. The laws of the Sandaime Hokage that were meant to protect the young boy were nothing but words on a sheet of paper as far as Konoha was concerned. Their hatred kept on consuming him, adding on to his hatred of them. And one day, that ball of darkness and pain would be set free on the world. But he would not be alone when it happened because hatred comes in many forms and no one is immune to it. Arashi Anko is such an example. A Takubetsu jonin who was once the apprentice of the snake Sannin Orochimaru. As a young girl, she wanted to be just like him. Intelligent, strong, cunning, and powerful. But all she got from her undying loyalty to her sensei was betrayal and the cursed seal of heaven. She rejected him when he asked her to come with him afterwards. And Orochimaru himself said that she lacked the will of vengeance and hate. But time can truly change people, for better or worse. For even though she pledged her loyalty to the village when she returned, the villagers, the council and her fellow ninjas didn't repay that loyalty in kindness. She couldn't count the number of times she had been called a snake bitch and a traitor by the people, as untrue as it was. How some would use her for their sexual desires, dropping her like a bad habit the next day and treating her like a slut even when the snake mistress had genuine feelings for that person. Or how the same people she fought with side by side in battle would follow her and keep tabs on her on the orders of the council, as if she was a criminal. In her home, she shed the tears she would show no one, for fear of showing weakness. How she would go to the bars and drink herself into a stupor to remove the pain of her heart and soul. Her hatred of her former sensei had begun to match the emotion she felt for the bastards who took out their loathing on the student of the snake. And yet, despite this pain, she would never go back to that bastard of a Sannin. She would follow him to the ends of the earth and make him pay for his betrayal, even if she had to die to accomplish that goal. Maybe that's why she was so sadistic, so bloodthirsty, and so lethal. It was probably the easiest way to forget the scars of her wounded soul. Hyuga Hinata is not one you could possibly consider to be hateful to anyone. But even she can feel detestation for someone. After all, in the eyes of her family, she was considered useless, despite her position as the true heiress of the Hyuga clan. A position that was taken away from her by her own father, a man who she did everything possible to please. In the end, Hiashi gave her title to her little sister Hanabi. A young girl who possessed more skill than her at the tender age of 7. She then was given to a complete stranger in the form of her future sensei Yuhi Kurenai in a matter similar to discarding waste. Do what you want with her. She is of no use to me. Hiashi said to Kurenai, though her daughter was within earshot. It broke her heart to hear those words, but it was enough to plant a dark seed within her. A seed that grew every time the Hyuga head would act cruel towards her and every time that her family members, whether they were from the main family or the branch family, would demean and degrade her. Some of her peers in the academy weren't as merciful either, as they considered her a spoiled and pampered little rich girl, which was far from the truth. Maybe that's why she can relate to Uzumaki Naruto more than anyone in this world. For she has bared witness to the cruelty that they had bestowed upon him. And the anger he had towards them was inadvertently spread to her as she began to hate those who hurt him as well. But no one was the wiser of this due to her shy and demure nature. She hid it behind her wallflower facade. But as the old saying goes, it's the quiet ones you have to look out for. Harama Yakumo painted a picture in her room at the mansion that belonged to her on the outskirts of the village she hated. A disturbing picture of a woman being impaled with a sword in her chest. It was someone she once trusted and admired. Someone she thought would help her dreams come true. It was her former tutor Yuhi Kurenai. She wanted to become a Genjutsu specialist so that she could make her family proud and take her place as the true heiress of the Kurama clan. Despite being born with a weak body, she was willing to work hard to make that goal a reality. But her dreams were shattered by her teacher, who lacked the faith that she did and told her to choose another path in life. She vehemently refused, and the punishment for that refusal was the sealing of her powers. A scowl appeared on her face as her mind went back to that day where she was strapped down and the Fujihoin, evil sealing method, was placed on her. She screamed in horror and in pain when the seal was placed, and she begged the Jonin to stop, but her cries fell on deaf ears to her teacher. It truly devastated her to have her dream so heartlessly taken away. But what she heard some time later would change her forever. Thanks to this, Yakumo's abilities probably won't awaken for a while. Kurenai said as she kneeled to the Hokage. I see. But sooner or later, she will break away from us as her abilities overflow out of her. The Kurama family's power will someday cause the downfall of Konoha. We'll have no choice but to wipe them out when that happens. Sarutobi told the Jonin grimly. The young woman couldn't believe what she had heard. She felt hurt and betrayed by the village and the Genjutsu mistress that she wanted to become like. And those feelings grew tenfold when her parents were killed by a fire in her old home. A fire she believed was started on the orders of the Sandaime himself. It was then that those feelings of hurt and betrayal festered into a cancerous hate. A cancer that continued to grow within her when she discovered by accident from eavesdropping on two of her clansmen talking that her remaining family members wanted her dead, one of them being her own uncle Ankai. Though she didn't hear the whole reason why, it didn't matter to her. They hated her, and she hated them. And somehow, someway, someday she would show them all how much she despised them all. Yes, these four were bound by the darkness that lied in each of their hearts. A darkness that would grow every day due to the people of Konoha. And that darkness would reveal itself and bring them together on the night that Uzumaki Naruto, who was deceived by the Chunin Mizuki, stole the scroll of sealing, in the belief that if he had learned a jutsu from it, he would graduate from the academy. Hokage Tower. Hokage-sama, we can't let that brat slide this time. This has become more than a prank. One Chunin said. The scroll of sealing has all the jutsus of the Shadaime Hokage and all the others that have passed. If he carries it out of the village, it will become a major problem if our enemy gets it. Another Chunin said. Letting out a heavy sigh, the Sandaime Hokage began to speak. I understand. Bring Naruto here at once. Leave no leaf unturned. Sarutobi ordered his men with a wave of his hand. Yes, Hokage-sama. All of the Chunin shouted simultaneously as they scattered like leaves in the wind. I'm going to spread the word throughout the village about Naruto's crime. Then once I kill the demon brat, the scroll of sealing will be mine. Mizuki thought as he let out a laugh on his way to where Naruto was. Enko's apartment. As the snake mistress tried her best to rest, her cursed seal of heaven started to glow and pulse, immediately waking her up. This pain. That can only mean one thing. He's here, Anko thought with a scowl on her face as she slowly got out of bed. I can't count on those bastards I call comrades. I'll have to deal with him alone. She confirmed in her mind as she grabbed her clothes to get dressed. Hyuga Manor, Hinata's room. What is this feeling? Why do I feel that Naruto-kun is in danger? Hinata thought out loud as she looked out the window while sitting in bed. She then heard some commotion from outside of her door. She got out of bed and put on her robe to check it out. When she opened the door, her father was outside the hall. Father, is there something wrong? She asked him with concern. It's nothing that concerns you. Go back to sleep. Hiashi answered with a face that matched the chill in his voice. But father, I think Naruto-kun is. As soon as the name of the blonde boy escaped her lips, the Hyuga head slapped the former heiress in the face. How dare you talk back to me, Hinata? Where's your respect to your father? I told you before, you useless girl, never mention that boy's name in this house. He said sternly. Forgive me, father, Hinata whimpered as she held her cheek and cried. Humph, you're not worth my time right now. Now go back to your room and don't let me see you come back out. The Hyuga head commanded his daughter. Why yes father, the indigo-haired girl squeaked in a mouse-like voice as she walked back into her room without looking at him. But when she closed the door, a look of anger and hurt was etched on her face. I don't care what my father says. I know that Naruto-kun needs me. And I'm going to him. She thought with conviction as she went to her drawer and started to get dressed quietly. Kurama Mansion. There's a strange heaviness in the air. Yakumo whispered as she looked out the balcony of her window. She just finished another painting showing the death of the Genjutsu mistress. Perhaps I should take a walk, she thought to herself as she got dressed. Once she did, she used a secret passage that not even her Anbu guards knew about and sneaked out of the house. Who knows? Maybe I'll get some inspiration for another painting of my former teacher's demise, she said to herself with a laugh as she quietly headed into the forest. Deep in the forest, Uzumaki Naruto was panting hard after spending about a half hour learning the first technique he saw on the scroll, Teju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, multiple shadow clone technique. He was about to try his luck at learning another one of the jutsus on the scrolls when his teacher Iruka showed up. "Hey, Naruto." Iruka growled with a vein pulsing on his forehead and his voice full of agitation and anger. Iruka-sensei, please don't be mad. I only learned one technique. And once I show it to you, you let me graduate, right?" Naruto said hastily. What? Who told you that?" The Chunin teacher questioned with a shocked look on his face. "I did," a mysterious voice answered. Just as the words came out of the mysterious voice's mouth, a giant shuriken flew past them, cutting Iruka's head clean off and spraying his blood all over the spiky blonde. His eyes widened in horror and he dropped the scroll to the ground as the now headless body slumped to the dirt and grass. "You did very well distracting Iruka for me, Naruto. Now, hand over the scroll of sealing to me," the voice said. A figure jumped down from the trees, who was none other than Mizuki. Mizuki-sensei, why did you? What's going on here?" Naruto asked in utter disbelief. "Well, since you asked so nicely, I'll tell you," the deceitful Chunin replied with a chuckle as he continued. "Did you know that there was a law that was created 12 years ago in regards to you?" He asked him in a blasé fashion. "The law, about me? What's the law?" The spiky blonde asked back curiously. "The law was that we can't say that you are a monstrous demon fox." Mizuki answered with a roaring laugh. What?" Naruto said as the blood drained from his face. "In other words, you are the beast known as the Kyuubi no Yoko who destroyed our village." He told him bluntly and coldly. It was then that all the hateful actions and words came rushing freshly in his mind. His frightened face disappeared and a look of rage took its place as he continued. "You've been deceived by this village and the people in it all this time. The ones you tried so hard to get their attention. Didn't you think it was weird for everyone to hate you so much? No one's ever going to recognize a demon, a monster and a freak like you. Konoha is always going to hate you. Even Iruka hated you because you killed his parents," he said as he laughed at the end. Naruto's face of rage deepened as he remembered all the times Iruka yelled at him and gave him a hard time with everything. He even called him a dope, dead last, because of his horrid grades. A name which the kids had no problem calling him. It was at that moment that tears poured out of his eyes. "But I thought you were my friend, I trusted you," Naruto shouted angrily. The evil Chunin just laughed in his face. "Why would I want to be friends with a demon like you? I only used you to get the scroll. And when I kill you, the scroll shall be mine and you'll just disappear, easily forgotten and unmourned by us humans." Mizuki spat venomously as he roared with laughter. Naruto clenched his fists and grinded his teeth. He now knew the truth about the hateful people of the village. And it was that horrible truth that started making the darkness in his heart consume him. "Damn you, damn you, damn you, damn you, damn you, damn you, Konoha, damn you all to hell." Naruto shouted as he closed his eyes and his chakra began to violently swirl around him. A few moments later, when he opened his eyes, he discovered that he was in a sewer. "Where am I?" he said to himself. "Child, come to me," a deep dark voice called out to him. Naruto began to walk towards where the voice was coming from until he came upon a gate that had a piece of paper that had the kanji with the word seal on it. "That's it, child, come closer," the voice said as he walked closer to the gate. But just as he did, the paper began to shrivel and crumble into dust. Once that was done, the gate swung open and a large fox that had red eyes with black slits in the middle appeared in front of the minuscule child. "At last. After 12 years of imprisonment, I'm finally free. And it's all thanks to the darkness within you, boy." The fox began to laugh as he used one of his tails to trap Naruto in a bone-crushing embrace. You're your Naruto got out. "That's right, boy. I'm the one who those foolish mortals believe is you. I am the legendary Biju, the Kyuubi no Yoko. It is thanks to all that hatred and malice that you've kept inside you from all the things that the villagers done to you that broke the part of the seal that keeps me in that cage." The demon fox explained to him with a wide toothy grin. "Let me go, you damn fox," he yelled defiantly as he vainly tried to break free. "You've got spirit, human. I like that. And to reward that spirit, after I destroy this pathetic village, I think I'll make you my slave for all eternity." Kyuubi roared with laughter. "No. I won't be used again. Not by this fox, not by this village. Not by anyone, not anymore. I will not cease to exist." Naruto screamed in his mind. It was at that moment that an unusual event occurred that would change the spiky blonde forever. Suddenly, the remnants of the Haki no Fuin Shiki, 8 trigram sealing style, and the 2 Shisho Fuin, 4 symbol seal, began to glow and started to suck Kyuubi's red chakra out of him, transferring it to Naruto at an insane speed. "What is this? This boy is draining my powers." Kyuubi shouted in disbelief. It was then that the demon fox realized its mistake in its haste to be free. Even though the main seal created by the Shiki Fujin, dead demon consuming seal, was broken, the sudden destruction of it caused the 2 remaining seals, which leaked the fox's chakra into Naruto's own, effectively increasing his chakra amount, to change and go out of control. If the seals were completely broken, Naruto would cease to exist and the fox would be free to rain his vengeance against the ones who imprisoned him. But now, thanks to the unstable change in the remaining seals that combined with Naruto's own will and the darkness that lied in his heart, the red chakra was cooperating with him and draining the fox of all of his powers and abilities. This can't be happening. I will not be destroyed by a child. It roared in disbelief. His tails began to disappear one by one and he started to shrink smaller and smaller. Sorry fox. But I'm not going to die here. It's my time to shine in this world. All that you are belongs to me now. Naruto said as his eyes were now red with black slits. He broke free from Kyuubi's grasp and raised a hand to the demon, which sped up the draining process. "Nu!" Kyuubi shouted, for the last time. The real world. Mizuki watched in complete awe as Naruto's blue chakra became a dark red which engulfed the young man's body, causing an explosion which threw the Chunin back. When the smoke cleared, the 12-year-old boy known as Uzumaki Naruto no longer existed. In the now smoldering crater, a young man who looked like he was in his mid-20s came out of it. He had long and wild spiky hair, which was now a mix of blonde and crimson. His face had a more mature, handsome and defined look, with his 3 whisker marks adorning his cheeks. His tacky orange clothes were replaced by a dark red long-sleeve muscle shirt and a long jet black cloak that had a red spiral design on the back with red inner lining. He also wore black gloves with red spirals on the top. His ninja pants and combat-style ninja boots had an onyx-like shine. But his most distinguishable feature was his eyes, which were now dark red with black slits in the middle. I can feel it. All of Kyuubi's powers. All of his strength and years of wisdom. It all belongs to me now. So this is what it's like to be a true demon. I like it, Naruto said as he looked at his hands and gave a sly smile to himself. The boy, who was now a man, enjoyed the demonic powers and wealth of knowledge that once belonged to the most powerful of the Baiges. He liked his new self. He liked his new self a lot. Now's my chance, while he's distracted. Mizuki thought as he pulled out his spare giant shuriken. Die Naruto. He shouted as he threw the weapon with all his might. While still looking at his hands, he immediately raised one of them and easily caught the giant shuriken like it was a toy. What impossible. He shouted in complete astonishment. Oh Mizuki. I forgot about you for a moment. Here, let me return this to you. Naruto said with a wicked grin as he lifted his head to look at him in the eyes. The Chunin was so entranced by his dark red eyes, he didn't notice his weapon whizzing at high speeds at his right leg, which was now ceremoniously cut off. Mizuki let out a glass-shattering scream as he fell to the ground and started to bleed profusely. You were supposed to catch it Mizuki. Oh well he said as he walked up to him and let out an evil laugh. He picked up the Chunin by his vest and looked at him deep into his eyes. What kind of creature are you Mizuki asked in fear. What kind of creature am I? That's a good question. Let's just say that I'm what you and this despicable village made me out to be. You wanted me to be a demon, a monster, and a freak. Well, you got your wish. The human known as Uzumaki Naruto no longer exists. Now I'm the demon known as Uzumaki Naruto. And from this point on, I'm not taking shit from anyone anymore. He replied with a monstrous growl, which had the unfortunate effect of making Mizuki piss in his pants. Taking a whiff with his now enhanced nose, he scrunched his face in disgust. My sense of power coming from this piece of crap. He thought as he lifted Mizuki's shirt sleeve with his free hand to reveal some kind of unusual seal. Interesting, this seal you have seems to be some kind of formula. I think I'll take this. It could come in handy later he said. He removed his black glove and one of his fingernails started to grow into a claw-like shape. Focusing his red chakra into the tip of his index finger, he touched the seal and it glowed until it disappeared. No. Give that back, it's mine. Mizuki shouted. You should be more concerned about yourself. With all of the blood you're losing, you only have about 10 more minutes to live. Naruto laughed. Please, spare me Naruto. I'm sorry. Please help me. The now desperate Chunin pleaded. Help? You dare ask me for help? I can't believe how stupid you are. The crimson blonde said with a scowl as he put his black glove back on. You know, on second thought, I think I will help you. He said with a smile. You will? The Chunin asked in astonishment. Yes, Mizuki-sensei. I'll help guide you on your one-way trip to hell. When you see Shinigami, give him my regards, Naruto replied with a dark laugh as he made an unusual hand seal which Mizuki never seen before. Kaiten Mijutsu. Kitsune Tama, fire release demonic technique. Fox bullet. He shouted as he exhaled a dark red fireball from his mouth right into his face while he still held onto him. Mizuki let out a death wail as Naruto dropped the now dead Chunin to the ground, letting his charred husk cook in the moonlight. So this is what it's like to kill a person. It feels good. He thought as he closed his eyes and took a whiff of the ninja's burning flesh, smiling with satisfaction. It was then that someone from within the forest was clapping in approval. Hokage Tower Saratobi's office. A 69-year-old Sannin Hokage, who was known for always keeping a cool head in almost any situation and has seen almost everything in his long life, couldn't help but cover his mouth in disbelief at what Naruto had done as he gazed at him through his crystal ball. So the seal has been broken. What a truly dark day this is. Whatever that thing is, it's no longer Uzumaki Naruto. If it's Kyuubi, then it's my task to stop him. Even if it costs my life. Saratobi said as he got up from his chair and headed to the back to prepare for battle. Forest. Meanwhile, Midarashi Anko continued to jump through the trees when she saw fire was burning in the area. What the hell is that fire? The snake mistress thought out loud as her curse seal began to pulse even greater. I'm getting close to him. This time Orochimaru, you'll die. She swore as she placed a hand on her curse mark. Little did she know that Hinata and Yukuma was heading in the same direction as the fire from their spots like moths to the flame. A few miles away, Naruto turned to the sound of where the clapping is coming from. Fukuku. That was very impressive, my friend. A voice said as he came out of the shadows. His eyes were a deep gold that strangely complemented his pale features. Do I know you? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Oh, where are my manners? My name is Orochimaru. I am one of the Sannin. He replied. And what does one of the Sannin want with me? He asked as he turned to him. The knowledge that he absorbed from Kyuubi made his information on many things, such as knowing about the Sannin, available. I want the same thing you want. To grind Konoha into dust. The snake Sannin answered as his serpentine tongue licked his lips. Go on. The crimson blonde said. That man who you just killed was secretly working for me. I ordered him to bring the scroll of sealing to me. But no matter. I could use someone like you in a Togaker. Join me, and I shall grant you power the likes of which you've never seen before. With the scroll of sealing and our combined strength, we'll crush this village and have our revenge on the ninjas of the leaf. The snake Sannin explained. Naruto remained silent and walked over to the large scroll, standing it up with one hand. He then started to bust out laughing at the snake Sannin, which not surprisingly, irritated him. What's so funny? Orochimaru spat in a rage. You're of course. To think that I would join a greedy, treacherous, scaly fucking piece of crap like you. Even the dirt beneath me could give me a better offer, you slimy motherfucker. Naruto chortled. You little brat. How dare you insult me? Die. He said as he extended his neck to bite Naruto in his jugular. The crimson blonde just smiled as a tail made completely out of chakra came from behind him and wrapped around his neck, stopping him completely. I don't think so, Naruto said as his smile changed to a wicked grin. What in the world? I can't move. The snake Sannin said. That's the idea. My chakra tail is wrapped around your neck and the power flowing through it has paralyzed you. Leaving a legendary Sannin like you at my mercy. He explained with a smirk on his face. Now before I kill you, I have a task I need to take care of, which I was going to do before you rudely interrupted me. He said with a look of annoyance on his face. Taking a deep breath, he took his gloved hand which was covered with chakra and put it into his stomach. A moment later, he pulled out a crystal sphere which held the Kyuubi inside it, which was now a mindless and powerless creature, but still alive. He placed it into his pocket for a moment, then he preformed a hand seal with his fingers in a cross position. Page Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique. Naruto shouted as he made a clone of himself. You. Use the Warwick no Jutsu, sexy technique, on yourself. He commanded it. The clone obeyed and used the technique, transforming itself into a beautiful, nude girl. The crimson blonde smiled in approval and pulled out the crystal sphere. It's time to make very good use of you, former Biju of legend. He thought with an inner chuckle. Closing his eyes, he made a hand seal and released a large amount of red chakra and yoki from his body, which started to fuse the crystal sphere and the sexy clone together. The two elements became a conglomerate and started to mold into a new shape. What is he doing? I've never felt such power being released all at once. Orochimaru thought as he gazed in wonder, even though he was still paralyzed. A minute later, the shape started to take the form of a woman. Naruto opened his eyes and stopped releasing the red chakra and yoki from his body, signifying that the process was now complete. The woman who was kneeling at him looked just like Naruto's sexy jutsu. But instead of an illusion, the woman was now flesh and blood and much more seductive and curvier than before. Her hair was crimson and blonde colored just like her creator. It was tied up into two ponytails. She also had his whiskers and dark red eyes with black slits in the middle, along with full lips that was colored with rouge. But unlike her creator, she had pointy fox ears on top of her head and a long fluffy fox tail. She wore a black top which showed the cleavage from her voluptuous C-cup chest, while wearing a small and open smoky gray jacket with red spirals designs on the shoulders and the back. She wore gray jean-like kunoichi pants which hugged her sensuous curves and legs and had black kunoichi sandals on her feet. She was no longer an illusion, but a beautiful dark goddess who could get any man she desired solely on her beauty. Arise now, my beautiful creation. You are no longer the Kyuubi no Yoko, and you are no longer part of me as one of my clones. You are now my foxy goddess who I have breathed life into from your past self. You will be my companion who shall always stand by my side. From this night forward, your name will be Kyu. Naruto decreed as she stood up and opened her eyes while smiling at him. I'm happy to be of service to you, Naruto-sama. I am forever yours. Kyu said with a warm smile as she gave him a light bow. Wait a minute. You're Uzumaki Naruto, the container of the Kyuubi, but that's impossible. You're just a child. Orochimaru shouted in realization. Not liking the tone in his voice, Kyu walked up and punched him in the face, hard. An act which effectively knocked out 2 of his front teeth. How dare you, you filthy human. Watch how you speak to the master, or I'll rip out your insolent tongue. She growled at him angrily as she grabbed the lower part of his jaw with her hand. It's alright, my sweet Kyu. I shall deal with this annoyance shortly. In the meantime, I have a special task for you to do. The young demon said cheerfully as he opened his arms out to welcome her. She let go of the snake Sannin and ran up to him. She embraced him tightly, affectionately nuzzling his chest. What can I do for you, Naruto-sama? She cooed in a sexy voice while making circles on his cloak with her finger. I sense kindred spirits heading this way. I wish to welcome them appropriately, so go into the village, and Naruto started as he leaned in and whispered the rest into her ear. It will be done, my master. Kyu said sweetly as she gently kissed him on the cheek before releasing him. She used the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to create a clone of herself, then her and the clone transformed into shadow foxes with glowing red eyes and swiftly went into the village to carry out their tasks. Now then. Where were we? Ah yes, I was just about to kill you. The crimson blonde said as he turned his attention back to the Sannin. Wait a minute. What is it that you want? I'll give you anything you desire. Orochimaru said as he tried to weasel his way out of his demise. Well, now that you mention it, there is something I could use from you. But it's something I'll have to take on my own. Naruto said as he walked up his body. He started to make more unusual hand seals and shouted Mijutsu. Fukase no Kan, demonic technique. Duplication of the soul. His hand became covered with red chakra and went inside Orochimaru's stomach, causing the snake Sannin to scream in pain. A minute later, he pulled his hand out and was holding a glowing crystal sphere in his hand. What did you do to me? The snake Sannin asked as he groaned in pain. I used a demonic jutsu called duplication of the soul. It allows me to copy all of your knowledge and abilities into this little sphere that I can use in whatever way I want. It won't take away any of your abilities, but the process does cause excruciating pain to whoever I use it on. What can I say, it sucks to be you. Naruto replied with a dark cackle as he walked back to Orochimaru's head. Be damn you, he said. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, the crimson blonde said as he covered his arm with red chakra and put it into the Sannin's mouth. A moment later, he pulled out a now dead snake which had a sword handle sticking out of his mouth. He pulled the sword out and tossed the dead snake aside. I'll take the Kusanagi no Tsurugi. Ku no Tachi, Kusanagi sword. Long sword of the heavens, too. You won't need it in the place that Mizuki just went to. He laughed evilly. No. Wait. Orochimaru said in fear as he tried to break free from the paralysis. But it was futile as Naruto made more unusual hand seals and red chakra covered 2 fingers on his hand. Mijutsu. Nenshu Sahu, demonic technique. Combustion touch. Naruto said in an even tone as he touched his forehead. The chakra tail behind him disappeared and Orochimaru's body suddenly began to expand. What's happening to me? The snake Sannin barely got out as he started to swell like a balloon. Oh, that the jutsu I used on you is making the water and the plasma inside your body to come to a boil, which is causing your organs to expand and your body to blow up like a balloon. When it reaches its peak, you'll go out with a bang literally. He explained nonchalantly as he started to laugh venomously. Orochimaru screamed as his last words. A few seconds later, his body exploded into bloody chunks while Naruto covered his head with the hood of his dark cloak. Well, that was fun. Wouldn't you agree? He said with a wide smile on his face as he looked at a figure in the tree behind him. The figure jumped down towards the ground and came into the moonlight. The person was none other than Anko, who had just come into the area a couple of minutes ago and witnessed the death of her former sensei. What the hell, you just killed Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin, like he was an insect, Anko said in disbelief. Yeah, I did. But I think I used too much chakra on the snake bastard. Well, at least you're free of him and his curse mark. Naruto said as he pointed to the side of her neck. She turned her head and noticed that her curse seal of heaven on her neck was disappearing. She turned her head and looked at him with wide eyes. Who are you? The snake mistress asked mainly out of curiosity. The crimson blonde pulled the hood off his cloak and opened it a little wider so she could see all of him. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. May I ask your name? He inquired with a gentlemanly smile which made the Jonin's face heat up. This is Uzumaki Naruto, the kid with the Kyuubi. But I thought he was just a 12-year-old brat. When did he become so hot? she thought as she started to become sexually aroused while looking at him. I'm Arashi Anko. What happened to you? I thought you were just a kid. She said. The same thing that happened to you and the others. Naruto replied cryptically with a sad face. Others? Anko said with a raised eyebrow. There's no need to be afraid, you two. Please come out. He said in a raised voice. A minute later, Hinata and Yakumo appeared on opposite sides of the clearing. And Naruto-kun, is that you? Hinata asked cautiously as she blushed while pointing her fingers together. Yes and no, Hinata. I'm not the person I used to be, Naruto answered softly. What do you mean? Yakumo questioned. About a half hour later, the Crimson Blonde began to explain everything to the three women in detail. From the Kyuubi being sealed inside of him, to the villagers' actions towards him, and all of what happened tonight. It was a lot for the three of them to take in, but they understood his feelings. And they too shared their stories about their treatment to Naruto, courtesy of Konoha. How horrible, Hinata said with light tears in her eyes. So it looks like Konoha has shitted on all four of us, Anko said bitterly. Yes. I can't even stand to be near the village. Yakumo said. That is why we've been brought together. Naruto said. Why do you say that? The snake mistress asked. In all of you, I sense kindred spirits. That's why you three were drawn here to me. I know you three can feel it in your hearts and souls. The Crimson Blonde replied. Yes, you're right. All I could think about was finding you. Even though I didn't know where you were, I still sensed that you were here. The former Hyuga era said as she placed a hand over her heart. I know. I sensed something and decided to take a walk. And I felt drawn to come here. The Kurama era said in agreement. Yeah, it's strange. Even though my curse mark was pulsing and I saw Orochimaru being killed, I somehow felt strangely calm next to you. Even though I didn't know who you were, I could sense that you weren't my enemy. The snake mistress agreed as well. Yes. And now that you three are here, I wanted to tell you that I'm leaving this hateful village tonight. And I would like all of you to come with me. I could use some strong companions by my side that will be loyal to me and stand with me. And as a reward for joining me, I shall grant you some of the power that flows through me. But once we do this, there will be no going back. You have to leave everything behind. Think carefully about your choices and then decide. Even if you refuse, I will respect your choice and send you back to your homes, no questions asked. Please take your time and talk amongst yourselves. Naruto said as he looked at all three of them. The three women looked at each other, then at him at the moment, and then huddled together and whispered to themselves about Naruto's offer. I could care less about these pieces of shits here. All they think I am is a snake bitch anyway. And you did destroy Orochimaru for me. I'm in. Anko said as she stood up. And my family has took away my title as heiress of the Hyuga clan. And my father doesn't even care about me and has basically disowned me as his daughter. I will go with you and Naruto-kun. With you by my side, I believe I can see change. Hinata said as she stood up with a blush on her face. My former tutor Kurenai has destroyed my dream and my own family wants me dead. Konoha has brought me nothing but pain. Pain I don't want to feel anymore. I want to be strong and I want to be happy. If I can find it with you, then I'll stand by you always. Yakumo said as she stood up. Naruto looked at all three women and smiled at them warmly. Very well. You have made your choices of your own free will. I promise that I will protect you three with my power and my life. Naruto said with fiery conviction. Now kneel before me so I can bestow my strength into you. He asked of them. The three women complied and stood before them kneeling next to him. He looked at each of them and smiled until he went to Yakumo. Yakumo-chan, there's something I need to take care of before I begin. I want you to relax, okay? He asked her gently. Alright, Naruto-kun. Yakumo simply replied as she did just that. Covering his glove with red chakra once more, he closed his eyes and placed a hand on the top of the girl's head, traveling into her psyche. He walked around until he saw a strange demon-like creature eating away at her mind. So you were the one I sensed. Die, you ugly parasite. Mashin Tsum, Devil Claw. He roared as his dark red eyes started to glow and his hand became covered with red chakra which formed into a claw. The demon didn't even have a chance to defend itself as it was sliced into ribbons. Once that was accomplished, he used his powers to heal the damage caused by the beast. Afterwards, he opened his eyes and returned to the real world. Are you alright, Naruto-kun? Anko asked in concern. I'm fine. There was just an unwelcome visitor in Yakumo's mind. Naruto answered honestly. An unwelcome visitor? Yakumo asked in shock as she lifted her head up. Yeah. There was some demon eating away at your mind. But I killed him and healed the damage he was causing in your psyche, so don't worry. He explained while giving her a reassuring smile. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Now I know that I can trust you. The Kurama era said. The other girls nodded in agreement. Thank you, my ladies. I promised I would protect you and I never go back on my word. Now then, let us begin. Close your eyes, relax and let my power flow through you. He told them in a gentle but firm voice. Yes, Naruto-sama. The girls said simultaneously as they did what they were told. Making several unusual hand seals, 9 chakra tails began to swirl around him from behind. The tails hovered over them and started to rain down red chakra and yoki upon them, surrounding and engulfing all 3 of them completely. 10 minutes later, the process was complete and the dark energy surrounding them disappeared, along with Naruto's chakra tails. Anko-chan, Hinata-chan, Yakumo-chan, it is done. Now rise my lovely companions and join me by my side. Naruto decreed as the women slowly started to rise. Arashi Anko looked pretty much the same as before, with the exception of her purple hair now being down on her shoulders. But her old outfit was gone. In its place she wore a dark red, loose-fitting, samurai-style battle kimono that showed her cleavage and her strong legs. It was covered with a tan, sleeveless haori that had a red spiral on the back and she wore customized kunoichi sandals. Hyuga Hinata was now in her mid-20s like Naruto was. Her hair was longer and reached past her shoulders, and her body was more mature, curvier and sensuous, with her chest being slightly bigger than Anko's and sexy smooth legs. She was wearing a customized indigo blue kimono with a wide obi that ended with a miniskirt that stopped at her upper thighs, think Nemu Kuritsuchi's outfit from the anime Bleach. Her hands were covered with durable and sleeveless white gauntlets with red spirals on top and she wore heel-style, open-toed kunoichi sandals. Kurama Yakumo was also now in her mid-20s, with a now physically healthy body. Her skin was no longer pale and was full of color. Her hair was still the same as before, but more healthier and shinier, her body had decent curves, and her chest was nicely sized, but not as big as Anko's or Hinata's. She wore a customized purple battle kimono that ended with a skirt that was longer than Hinata's, as it covered her thighs. She wore red fishnet gauntlets on her wrists and red fishnet stockings on her legs, and had open-toed kunoichi sandals. So, how do you 3 feel? Naruto asked as they stood before them. I feel fucking good. I can feel new strength flowing through me. Anko replied happily. Me too. I feel stronger, more confident. Like I could defeat anyone in battle. Hinata said in a soft voice full of spirit but without stuttering once. I don't feel weak anymore. And my genjutsu powers are no longer sealed. I feel so wonderful. Yakumo squealed. I'm happy for you, ladies, Naruto said exhaustedly as he bended down to one knee. In a second, the 3 women ran to him. Are you alright, Naruto-sama? The girls asked in unison as they stood before him in worry. Yeah, I'm just tired. I may be a demon, but my power is not limitless. He replied honestly as he slowly stood up. The women all sighed in relief. Just then, Caillou and her clone in Shadow Fox form returned. I have returned with the things you requested, my master. Caillou said after she changed back to her human form. Well done, my sweet Caillou. And just in time too. Say hello to my new companions. Naruto said joyfully. Yo. I'm Arashi Anko. Good to know ya. Anko said in her usual boisterous tone. Hello. My name is Hyuga Hinata, formerly of the Hyuga clan. Nice to meet you. Hinata said softly with a wave. Same here. I'm Kurama Yakumo, formerly of the Kurama clan. Yakumo greeted with a warm smile. Pleasure to meet you all. My name is Caillou. I'm the loyal companion of Uzumaki Naruto-sama. Any friend of my master is a friend of mine. The foxy woman said while giving them a friendly bow. Now that we're all introduced, may I have the gifts for the ladies, Caillou-chan? The crimson blonde requested. Of course, Naruto-sama. Here you are. Caillou answered with a blush on her face from hearing the affectionate suffix added to her name as her and her clone each handed a crystal sphere to him, with the clone disappearing afterwards. Was there any trouble getting them? Naruto asked. I had to kill a few humans who got in my way at the Hyuga place, but it wasn't too difficult. But there are a number of humans who'll be here soon. She explained. Then let's make this quick. Anko-chan, Hinata-chan, Yakumo-chan, listen carefully. Although I have given you some of my powers, you are still human and can still die. The crimson blonde started to explain. Can we destroy a mountain with a flick of our finger? Anko questioned suddenly. No, Anko-chan, Naruto answered dryly, causing the snake mistress to blush in embarrassment and the other girls to laugh. Although you are now all stronger than most humans and possess my ability of regeneration, it's your special talents that have been greatly increased the most. Take you for example, Hinata. Your family uses the Juken, Gentle Fist, which is considered one of the most powerful taijutsus in the world. With the body that you now possess, you are faster, more flexible and powerful with your attacks, and your defense and stamina have been increased as well. And with this crystal sphere that Caillou fetched for me, you'll have all the knowledge and abilities of your hateful jerk of a father, making you a true heiress of the Hyuga clan and a master of the Juken. Now step forward. He said to the indigo-haired beauty. Hinata nodded and walked up to him. Will this hurt, Naruto-sama? Hinata asked with worry. You know I would never hurt you, Hinata-chan. Just close your eyes and relax. he said tenderly as he gently kissed her cheek, making her face turn a bright tomato red. After compassing herself from the kiss, she closed her eyes like he told her to. Naruto made an unusual hand seal, and his hand that had the crystal sphere in it was covered in dark red chakra. He slowly placed the sphere inside her body via the stomach, making her gasp for a moment before she relaxed. A moment later, he pulled his hand out and Hinata was covered in a blue chakra glow. "There, the process is now complete," he told her. "Thank you, Naruto-sama. I'll use your gift well," she said in her angelic voice as she kissed his cheek. "I know that you will, Hinata-chan. Yakumo-chan, step forward." The crimson blonde ordered as Hinata stepped back while she walked forward. "As I'm sure you already know, as the former heiress of the Kurama clan, your skill lies in Genjutsu. Now even though you are not skilled in Taijutsu or Ninjutsu, your Kekkei Genkai allows you to make your Genjutsus real against your opponents. And that can be deadlier than any Ninjutsu or Taijutsu. So with your new body, your skill and speed and evasion has increased greatly, so you can dodge enemy attacks while using your skills in illusion to defeat them. And with this crystal sphere that Kaiu gave me, you will have the knowledge and abilities of the teacher who sealed your powers and destroyed your dream. You will become the new mistress of Genjutsu," Naruto said. When Yakumo heard that last sentence, she had a wide smile of joy and happily glumped the young demon. "Thank you so much, Naruto-sama," Yakumo said while nuzzling his cheek. "Aha. You can thank me after I give this to you." The crimson blonde chuckled. "Oh, right," she said as she released him. A minute later, the process was complete. "You made my dream come true, Naruto-sama." "Thank you," she said as she hugged him again and kissed him on the cheek. "I told you, Yakumo-chan, I promised to protect you with my power and my life. The five of us are connected now and nothing shall ever tear us apart," he said warmly as he stroked her hair making her give out a light purr. "Okay, last but most definitely not the least. Anko-chan, step forward," he called to her. Yakumo stepped back and the snake mistress stepped forward. "Well, it's about damn time you got to me." Anko pouted with an annoyed look on her face. "Sorry about that, Anko-chan." The crimson blonde apologized as he kissed her on the cheek which caused her to blush. "Now then, even though you're very versatile due to the training you received from that snake Orochimaru, like him, you're mainly skilled in ninjutsu," Naruto said honestly. "Wait a minute. How do you know all these things about us?" the snake mistress questioned. "When I took Kyuubi's powers, I also took his knowledge and a couple of his personality traits, making me much smarter and mature than I was when I was a kid. And since I gave all of you some of my power, I was able to gauge your abilities when I made the transfer. That's how I know so much about you girls' strengths and weaknesses," the young demon replied. "Well, that makes sense. Sorry for interrupting, Naruto-sama," Anko said. "Don't worry about it, Anko-chan. Moving on, there wasn't much for me to do with you since you're already a powerful kunoichi. And with this crystal sphere I acquired before I killed your former master, you'll have his knowledge and abilities," he finished. Anko nodded silently as if to tell him to proceed. He nodded back with a smile, and a minute later, the snake mistress had the abilities and the knowledge that the snake Sannin once possessed. "Anko-chan, are you alright? You look kind of sad," he asked with worry. "It's just I always wanted to be like him when I was young, that's why I worked so hard back then. Until he betrayed me like that and put that fucking mark on me. Now that I have all of his knowledge and abilities now, it just feels very strange to me," she replied softly. "There's no need to worry, you'll always be Mitarashi, Anko. Don't forget that," Naruto said warmly as he enveloped her in a warm hug. "Thanks, Naruto-sama," Anko said as she returned his hug and wiped the tears that stung her eyes. "Here, take this," he said as he released her and opened his cloak to pull out a sword with a sheath he created. "This is Kusanagi," the snake mistress said in shock. "That's right. As his former student, it's rightfully yours." The crimson blonde as he handed her the legendary sword. She took it and strapped it on her obi, making her look like a ninja samurai. "I don't know what to say. But I'll say this. I'm glad I chose to stand by your side. And I swear to you here and now, Naruto-sama, I'll crush any maggot that stands in our way," she said with a look of dead seriousness on her face as she gave him a light bow. "I feel sorry for whoever faces you," Naruto chuckled. "You should be," she said sadistically as she unsheathed Kusanagi and licked its blade. "Excuse me, Naruto-sama, but what abilities does Kaiu have?" Hinata asked out of curiosity. "Kaiu, would you kindly explain?" the young demon inquired from the foxy woman. "Yes, master. I have excellent agility, speed and a decent amount of strength. I have the ability to turn into a shadow fox as well as summon other shadow foxes if the need arises. I can also use certain elemental demonic jutsus for up-close melee combat. But my greatest skill would be is that I can read the mind of any creature, but only on those that are close to me within 5 to 10 meters. I also have a psychic link with Naruto-sama, just like he has a telepathic link with you three," Kaiu explained in great detail. "Wow, that's pretty damn cool." Anko said honestly. It looks like the pleasantries are over. Naruto suddenly said as he looked around the area. The women followed their leader's suit and saw that they were surrounded by Jonins and Chunins. It looks that way, Naruto-sama Yakumo said as they all got into battle stances. Ayubi no Yoko, you are surrounded. Release the women at once or prepare to die. A Jonin shouted. Naruto stepped forward and started to roar with laughter, stunning the ninjas. Stupid ass humans. Don't speak of things you don't know. The Kyuubi no Yoko no longer exists. He told them honestly. Don't try to deceive us, demon. A voice called out as it headed into the clearing. It was the Sannin Hokage Sarutobi in his ninja battle gear attire. Old man, Naruto said with a smirk. Sannin Hokage. Yakumo said with rage as she was about to charge at him. Yakumo-chan, calm down. Let me handle this, the crimson blonde said sternly. Yes, Naruto-sama. She said as she begrudgingly stepped back to her former position. I sensed that the seal was broken. You took over Naruto's body and killed Mizuki. But I promise you, you won't destroy our village. We will fight you to the death if we must. Sarutobi said with conviction as he got into a battle stance. The young demon gave him a wicked grin and suddenly appeared behind the professor. Hokage-sama. A number of the Jonins shouted. They were about to attack when Kaio appeared behind her master, protecting his back with a kunai in her hand. Take one step, humans, and your blood will be spilt on this night. Kaio warned as her dark red eyes glowed eerily, making the Jonins freeze in fear. Thank you, Kaio-chan. Make sure they behave themselves until I'm done, please. Naruto requested. Yes, master. She said obediently. Now then, old man, there's something you need to know, so don't move, or your men will die. What I told you was true. The Kyuubi no Yoko really doesn't exist anymore. He said into his ear. But how can this be? The Sannin asked while making sure not to move. Well, when Mizuki killed Iruka-sensei and told me the truth that you failed to tell me about these bastards, the fox broke the seal and tried to take over my body. And the beast almost succeeded. But he didn't break all of the seal. And that remaining seal helped me drain the Biju of his powers until it became my own. The crimson blonde explained to him. What? Then that means, the professor said in realization. That's right, old man. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. And I'm now the demon that this village has claimed me to be. I killed Mizuki because I wanted to. And you know what? I enjoyed every minute of it. And if you or any of this scum gets in me or my companion's way, we will kill you all without hesitation. Naruto growled in a deep and threatening voice as his dark red eyes started to glow. Naruto Sarutobi said somberly. You were supposed to protect me, old man. But you and this village failed me. All I ever wanted was to be accepted, to be loved just like any other human being in this world. And yet, everyone here hated me and treated me like I was nothing. Like I was an insect to be stepped on and rubbed under their shoe. They said that I was a demon, a monster and a freak, even though they knew the truth about me. They beat on me every day, and you did nothing. You made all those little laws, and the people you just swore to protect didn't even follow them, and they made my life a living hell because of it. You may forgive these spiteful humans who denied me the right to exist, but I never will. The crimson blonde roared. But this isn't like you, Naruto. You would never do something as cruel as what you did to Mizuki. The Hokage said as tears stung his eyes. How the hell do you know who I am? Do you have any idea of the pain I went through, being an orphan, all alone, with no one who cared? And I'm not the only ones who suffered because of this village. Anko-chan tied off all her links to your former student Orochimaru, but she was treated worse than the snake bastard himself in this village, and it hurt her to the core. Hinata-chan was supposed to be the next head of her clan and fought hard to be worthy of that title, but her own father treated her just like the villagers treated me, like she was nothing. Yakumo-chan just wanted to make her dream of being a Genjutsu master come true. But she was forever denied that because of you and Yuhi Kurenai and the fear you had of her powers. And even though she now knows the truth about the death of her parents, thanks to the power that flows through her, she still hates this village and her remaining family for the pain you caused her. Naruto said as he grabbed his head with one hand and forced him to look at the three women. All three of them looked at the ninja leader coldly. So what are you going to do now? Are you and the others going to take out your vengeance towards us? The professor asked in a grave tone of voice. Naruto let out an evil laugh. Fear not, old man. Although the thought has crossed my mind, I'm not as destructive as the fox was. There's no point in causing needless carnage, even though you bastards deserve it. Here's what I have in mind instead, the crimson blonde said with a sinful smile as he whispered into the Sandame's ear so that only he could hear him. The Hokage's eyes widened in horror as he heard the young demon's plans. Naruto then removed his black glove and one of his nails became longer and hooked into a claw. With a quick swipe, he scratched a mark across his right eye in a downward motion which immediately cauterized and became a permanent scar, making the Sandame Hokage scream in agony. Well, now that you know my goals, old man, I'm going to let you and the scum of this village live, since you did show some kindness to me when I was a human. Be grateful for my generosity. But know this, I advise you not to come after us. Because if you do, there will only be 4 great nations when my ladies and I are done with you, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh, and consider that scar I just gave you a punishment for your failure to us. Hope you like it. He added with a sinister laugh as he slowly moved away from him. Let's go, Caillou-chan. He said to the foxy woman. Yes, Naruto-sama. Caillou said as she and Naruto reappeared in their original spots. Now's our chance. Attack. A Jonin leader said. Stop. Everybody stand down. Sarutobi said suddenly, which stunned his men. But Hokage-sama. We can't just let this demon and his whores escape. An Anbu captain said. Who the fuck are you calling a whore, you piece of shit? Anko shouted angrily. Screw them, Anko-chan. Just ignore the baka, idiot. Naruto said. DCH fine. I was looking forward to cutting him and his damn Anbu ass's heads off with Kusanagi too. The snake mistress growled. What did you say? Another Anbu captain shouted. That's enough. This is not a battle we can win. Let them go. That's an order. The professor shouted as he turned towards them while covering his eye that had the scar on it. Yes, Hokage-sama. Most of the ninjas grumbled as they lowered their weapons. A wise decision. You should listen to your leader more often. You'll stay alive longer. Hinata said matter-of-factly. Well said, Hinata. Yakumo said as she busted out laughing at the ninjas, which caused them to growl in anger. It's time, Anko-chan. Let us say goodbye to Konoha. Naruto commanded. With pleasure, Naruto-sama. Anko said with a smirk. She started to make hand seals and red smoke surrounded the 5 of them as they started to sink and disappear into the ground. By the way. From this night forward, we are now known as Corison, Dark Spiral. Remember it. Naruto shouted to them as he and his women disappeared. A few minutes later, after the red smoke cleared, a med nin ran towards the Hokage to check his condition. Hokage-sama, are you alright? The med nin asked as he went to check the scar. Yes. I'll be alright. It's just a scar. Sarutobi replied as he started to walk towards his men. Anbu squads, report back to your posts immediately. All Jonins, make sure that security is heavily fortified and that the gates are sealed until further notice from me. All Chunins, get a med team here and take care of the bodies, while the rest of you stand guard and check to see if there's any wounded. He ordered them. Yes, Hokage-sama. They all said in unison as they disappeared into the night to carry out their assignments. Hokage-sama, what are Naruto's plans? One of the remaining Anbu captains questioned. Naruto is going to ARRGH. Sarutobi started as he suddenly screamed and fell down to one knee as the scar that Naruto gave him across his right eye started to glow a dark red. Hokage-sama, what's wrong? The Anbu captain asked with worry. It's nothing. Don't worry about me, the Sandaime Hokage answered as he slowly got back up. But he began to say until the ninja leader raised a hand to silence him. I'm fine. Let's head back to the village and don't ask any more questions. Sarutobi commanded. Without pressing the matter any further, the Anbu nodded and walked in front of the Hokage. It was then that a voice was heard in the back of the professor's head. What I told you was a secret between us, so keep it to yourself. The voice said in Sarutobi's subconscious mind as it let out a dark chuckle. The Hokage growled for a moment but then sighed and lowered his head in shame as the last thing that Naruto said came rushing into his mind. Who is the true demon, old man? Me? Or the village that made me into one with their hatred and ignorance? Here's a word of advice from a young boy who was my past self. Don't underestimate the evil that humans possess. For they can be more monstrous than any demon. It was then that the normally steel-hearted Hokage started to cry tears of sorrow over the souls that died this night. He especially shed tears for the soul who was supposed to be the hero of Konoha, but became twisted by the hatred of the people he protects. A soul who died this night and became the epitome of the darkest side of the village. A side that he admittedly turned a blind eye to. Yondaime, forgive me and this foolish village for our sins and for what we created this night. Sarutobi thought to himself as he looked at his face on the Hokage monument, his vision blurred by the flow of tears that got bigger and bigger. Several miles away from Konoha. Master, where shall we go? Caillou asked as the dark group walked through the woods. Let us go to Rice Field Country. Naruto said as his lips curved up into a smile. What's in Rice Field Country, Naruto-sama? Hinata questioned. A nice little village that is in need of a leader now that their current one is dead. I think it would make a nice home for us, wouldn't you agree, Anko-chan? The crimson blonde said in a dark tone as he turned his head to her. I definitely would, Naruto-sama, Anko replied with an evil smirk as she looked at him. And what if they resist, Naruto-sama? Yakumo asked. Then may Kami help them if they try. Naruto answered as his dark red eyes started to glow and he started to laugh wickedly. His women followed suit and headed to the direction of Rice Country where their destiny awaited. A few hours have passed since Naruto and his ladies left Konoha and were on their way to Atagakure no Sado, the village hidden in sound. The mood was pretty quiet and peaceful as the 5 of them made small talk along the way. Well, it looks like they're not coming after us, Naruto-kun. Yakumo said as she looked back. I'm not surprised. The old man may have failed us, but he is not stupid enough to come after us now that he knows the truth. Naruto said with a smirk. Speaking of which, what did you tell the Sandame? Anko asked curiously. I just told him what we're planning to do, Anko-chan. The crimson blonde replied nonchalantly. Won't he tell the others? Hinata inquired. No need to worry, Hinata-chan. I took care of that. Naruto said with a grin. The scar you put on him. Smart thinking, Naruto-sama. Caillou complimented with a smile as she wrapped her arms around one of his. Thanks, Caillou-chan. He said with a light blush while rubbing the back of his head, causing the girls to laugh at him. After the laughter died down, their dark fearless leader stopped for a moment and turned his head in a certain direction. What's the matter, Naruto-kun? The Jinjutsu member of the group asked with worry. I sense a kindred spirit, ever so faintly. The crimson blonde answered with a light scowl on his face. That area is the Konoha mountains. Anko told him as she pointed to where he was looking. I see. Let's see if the person there will join us. Anko-chan, you, Hinata-chan and Yakumo-chan keep heading to Rice Field Country and find us some lodging if you can. Caillou-chan, you'll come with me. Naruto commanded. Right. The girls all said in unison. We'll see you soon, Naruto-kun. Please be careful. The beautiful Hyuga said in her angelic voice. Naruto smiled warmly and used the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, shadow clone technique, to create 3 clones. The clones walked over and wrapped their arms around each girl, holding them close. Don't worry about me. I'll be alright. You be careful too, my ladies. The clone said as they captured the lips of all 3 girls in a soft romantic kiss, making all of them moan softly and melt in the clone's arms. A minute later, they broke the kiss and the clones disappeared. Let's go, Caillou-chan. He said. Yes, master. Caillou said as they jumped into the trees and headed to the mountains. Anko, Hinata and Yakumo just stood there for a couple more minutes, with their eyes glazed and their bodies in pure bliss. Damn. That was one hell of a kiss. Anko finally said. Hinata slightly mumbled and nodded with her face as red as a beet. We definitely made the right choice. I hope Naruto-kun kisses us like that again. Yakumo said breathlessly. The other 2 nodded in agreement as they continued on. 30 minutes later, Fire Sound border. The girls finally made it to the border where Rice Field Country awaited them, only to find a group of Sound Chunin and 1 Jonin standing in their way. Halt. Identify yourselves. The head border guard requested. We're just some hot women looking to have some fun in Rice Field Country. Anko said sensuously as she pulled her dark red battle kimono down a little to teasingly show the men a little more cleavage, which made a number of the Chunin's noses bleed. Unfortunately, the head guard was a bit of a tight ass and wasn't affected at all by the sexy pose. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I can't allow you to pass. He said. We need to find a place to stay for the night. Won't you please let us pass? Hinata asked in her usual polite tone. Come on, Captain, let them pass. A Chunin and a few others said as they ogled the beautiful Hyuga's body and stared at her sexy legs. No. We can't let them pass. These are the orders of Orochimaru-sama and Kabuto-sama. The tight-ass Jonin said. And you make an exception for some beautiful travelers. We won't tell anyone. Yakumo said. The Chunins grabbed the Jonin and started to whisper into his ear. A minute later, a perverse grin crept up on the man's face. Well, I guess we can make an exception. But on one condition. The Jonin said. What's the condition? Hinata asked with a raised eyebrow. We'll let you pass if you give us a little taste. The Jonin replied with a perverse grin as he licked his lips and looked down at the lady's lower half, causing the others to laugh, cheer, drool and holler. The women, however, were not pleased with the toll. Figures they would go down that road. The snake mistress thought with a sigh. Well, I guess we have no choice. Yakumo. She said in her mind as she turned to the Kurama girl and spoke to her telepathically with a smirk on her face. Leave them to me. The former Kurama heiress replied with a sly smile as she stepped up front. Well, if that's what you want. Just remember, boys, you asked for this. She said with a smile as she started to make hand seals. She shouted Meijin. Jubaku Goku, demonic illusion. Tree bind hell. As she suddenly disappeared. Before they had a chance to react, roots began to grow at their feet and completely constricted their movements. What the hell? I can't move. One of the Chunin said as they all tried to break free, realizing that there was no escape when the roots became trees and began to wrap around them. Once they were captured, Yakumo appeared in each of the tree's trunks with a kunai in her hand. Wait, please. We were just kidding. The Jonin said as he started to wet his pants. You're a terrible liar, pervert. Besides, you should be grateful. If Naruto-kun were here and heard what you said, he would have done this slowly. You should have just let us gone through. But the only thing you boys will be getting a taste of is this. All the Akumo said as they plunged their kunes into each of their skulls, making them scream until they lay dead. A minute later, the Akumos disappeared from the trees, while the real one appeared next to the other girls. Well, that's that. Let's get going. Anko said. You know, if you didn't tease them like that, Anko, I wouldn't have had to kill them. Yakumo pouted. Oh, lay off. It's not my fault the bastards were pervs. The purple-haired woman huffed. Maybe so, Anko. But for a moment, I thought you were going to give them a taste. Hinata said embarrassingly with a light blush. Humph, I'd rather tongue a snake. The snake mistress snorted. Funny you should mention that, snake mistress. The Jinjutsu member chuckled as both girls laughed at a now blushing Anko. Ha ha. Very funny, Yakumo. She grumbled. I know it is. That was the point. Yakumo countered as she continued to laugh. Hinata giggled while Anko just rolled her eyes as they walked past the now dead guards in their tree coffins. But not before taking the men's tools, money and supplies from them. 15 minutes later, long after the girls left, 4 dark figures appeared and saw the guards. It looks like we have intruders. The man carrying a pincer weapon on his arm said. Yes. We have to inform Kabuto-sama. We need to keep an eye on the entrance. If anyone comes near it from the forest, unless they are Odo ninjas, kill them. The head one with gray hair said. Understood. One man who was hanging upside down on a tree said. After I clean up here, I will inform Kabuto-sama and protect the main entrance. The leader said. The 2 men nodded and vanished. The last one, who had a hunched back, was staring in the direction of Fire Country. Is there something wrong? He asked. No, it's nothing, the figure said. You have your orders. Now go. He said. Yes, the figure said as the hunchback jumped into the trees. What was that feeling I just had? It felt so calming, the figure thought cryptically as it left. After the 4th figure left, the leader began to make some hand seals. Come to me, lost ones, the leader said in an eerie voice. Konoha Mountains. Meanwhile, Naruto and Caillou were walking towards a single house that had a light on in the window, near the base of the Konoha Mountains. Is this the place, Naruto-sama? Caillou asked curiously. Yes, it is, Caillou-chan. The kindred spirit is here. Naruto replied as he walked past the fence and stared at a beautiful garden full of flowers. Very nice flowers. He said. Caillou nodded in agreement as he walked up to the door and knocked on it softly. A minute later, a beautiful young woman opened the door. She was wearing a red and white dress which was cut off at the shoulders, showing only her collarbone. Her eyes and hair were black with a short ponytail only reaching past her neck. Why yes, may I help you? The woman asked in a slightly nervous voice after seeing who the knocker was. Your name is Subaki, correct? Naruto inquired with a warm smile. Yes, it is. How do you know my name? Subaki asked. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and this is my companion Caillou. He said with a light gentlemanly bow. As soon as his name came out of his mouth, the ex-fiancé of Mizuki's eyes widened in shock. It can't be. You're Naruto B, but I thought. She started to stammer. Yeah, I know. It's a long story. May we come in? There's something you need to know. The crimson blonde said seriously. Subaki didn't understand it, but there was something inside of her when she looked in his eyes that made her relax, despite knowing the truth of who he was. Alright. Please come in. She finally said as she opened the door more and let them in. An hour later, after the lonely woman let Naruto and Caillou in, he immediately began to explain the situation to her, from his changes to what he did. He expected her to be upset when she found out about Mizuki's demise, and she didn't hesitate to show it. For when he finished his story to her, she slapped him across the face while tears fell from her eyes. You bitch. You dare strike my master, you must want to die. Caillou growled while her red eyes glowed. She was about to stand up and go after the woman, but Naruto raised an arm to stop her. It's alright, Caillou-chan, Naruto said quietly with his eyes closed and a red mark on his right cheek. But the crimson beauty was about to protest. Sit down, Caillou-chan. This is her house and you're being rude. Besides, I took Mizuki's life. And since she was his ex-fiancée, she has every right to be upset and angry at me. He said as he looked at the woman in question with a sad face. Naruto-sama, Caillou said somberly as she sat back down quietly. How could you kill Mizuki like that? Subaki sobbed. If I didn't kill him, he would have killed me. Just like he killed his best friend Iruka-sensei, and just like he betrayed me when I thought he was my friend. But you already knew what he was going to do, didn't you, Subaki? The crimson blonde asked suddenly, making the woman gasp. I don't know what you're talking about. She stammered as she turned her head away. Don't lie to me. Caillou-chan has the ability to read the mind of any creature near her. She also has a telepathic link with me, and she told me that you knew Mizuki was going to steal the scroll of sealing for Orochimaru. You also knew that he worked for that snake bastard and that he was trying to acquire power from him. That's why you quit being a ninja. Because despite knowing what would happen and the lives that could have been lost, you didn't tell the village, did you? Naruto asked with a slight scowl on his face as he stood up and looked down at her. Subaki looked up at him for a moment before looking back down and clutching her dress as she gave a slight nod. Yes, you're right. I didn't tell the village. It was bad enough that he had stolen the scroll. And because when I thought of his true intentions with it, I became scared. I know it was foolish, but I wanted to believe he would atone for his misdeeds of the past. Subaki explained sadly. Then you are guilty for hiding that knowledge and for letting him hurt and betray Naruto-sama. Caillou said angrily. Caillou-chan. The Dark Leader scolded. No. She is right. He visited me earlier in the day. When he told me what he was going to do, I tried to stop him. But as I usually did, I let him go and said nothing. He told me if I said anything, he would kill me. But I still should have tried harder to stop him. If I had said something, none of this would have happened. But even then, the young woman said disgracefully as she started to cry hard. Naruto said nothing and just looked at her with his hair covering his eyes. Subaki then stood up and looked at him once more. Mizuki and I have caused you great pain and suffering. I understand that it is pointless now, but I sincerely apologize to you for everything that happened. If you've come here to take my life and get revenge for what happened, you may have it. I'm prepared for my punishment. I don't care what happens to me, I just ask that you forgive me for the sins Mizuki and I have caused you. She said while she closed her eyes and continued to weep. Naruto lifted his head and walked up to her slowly. The young woman's body began to tense up and she let out a whimper, preparing herself for what was to come. But instead of her demise, she felt a gentle hand wiping her tears away. Subaki opened her eyes and saw the Dark Leader of Corison looking back at her. His eyes is that compassion. She thought to herself as she stared at his crimson orbs. Don't be so quick to ask for death, Subaki. Especially when you don't deserve it. Even for a demon like me, life is precious. Naruto said in a gentle voice. What? Subaki said in complete astonishment. I don't blame you for what happened. At least you tried to stop Mizuki. You may have been wrong for not saying anything. But it would have been worse if you did nothing. Or worse, if you had helped him. He made his choice. There was nothing you could have done to stop him. If you had, like you said, he would have killed you. The Crimson Blonde explained. But that doesn't change the fact that I couldn't save him from himself. She said depressingly. Subaki, do you want to know the truth of how he met Orochimaru? Naruto said as he walked up to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. You can show me that. The young woman asked. Yes, I saw it when I took that seal from him. But I'll only show you if you want to see it. He told her seriously. Yes. Please show me the truth. She said with conviction. Alright. Close your eyes and relax. Naruto requested. The woman complied with his request and shut her eyes while relaxing her body. He placed his hands on both sides of her face while red chakra covered his hands. Subaki began to see a vision as she witnessed the meeting of her former fiancé and the snake Sannin. Flashback several years ago. How is he, Mizuki? A Chunin asked as the white-haired ninja looked down at his fellow Chunin who was injured. Not good. I'm sorry, but Mizuki replied after checking his vitals. I see, another Chunin said sadly. We're withdrawing. Hurry. The squad leader said as they started to leave the area. Okay. Mizuki told him as they went ahead. Once they were gone, the injured Chunin opened his eyes, signaling that he was not dead. But the white-haired man would rectify that as he covered the man's mouth with his mouth while a wicked grin crept up on his face. It's unfortunate, but those who can't fight are only a hindrance. He said in an evil tone as he applied pressure on the injured Chunin's leg, making him scream in pain over his mouth. Although it's only a minor injury, you can't move like this. Mizuki said with a semi-insane laugh as he added more pressure to his leg and mouth. Several minutes passed and the injured Chunin was now dead. However, as Mizuki was about to leave, he heard someone let out an amused laugh. Who's there? He shouted out into the forest. A moment later, he realized that he couldn't move. Shit. It's the Kanashibari no Jutsu, temporary paralysis technique. He cursed to himself. I saw it. The voice said as half of his body came out of a tree. Could it be your Orochimaru? Mizuki exclaimed. Cuckoo, congratulations. The snake Sannin said with a chuckle. How? How is it that you're here now? The Chunin questioned. That is irrelevant. Anyway, you showed me something very interesting just now. He replied, causing Mizuki to gasp. You murdered your injured comrade, didn't you? He asked him in a blasé fashion, despite knowing the answer. You saw that? Mizuki asked back. Yes, I did. It really piqued my curiosity. With a country like Konoha that thinks of everyone as family, it is a rarely seen action. Orochimaru said truthfully. So what the hell are you trying to say? What I did wasn't wrong. That was all I could have done. The Chunin shouted angrily as if he was trying to convince himself. The Sannin just busted out loud in laughter. Such an irritable child. I'm not criticizing you. All you did was complete your mission. He said. Yes. That's right. Mizuki said in agreement. But, I wonder if there is anyone in Konoha that will acknowledge that. The Sannin asked with a small laugh. Raising his arm towards him, a serpent came out of his sleeve and headed towards Mizuki at great speed. The Chunin screamed in horror, thinking that the Odo leader was going to kill him. But the snake bit him on the arm instead. He grunted in pain, but he didn't scream. "What are you?" Mizuki asked as he suddenly felt a wave of power coursing through him while the Sannin was chanting some words to himself and writing something on a piece of paper. "This is," he said in realization. "It's a present from me." The Sannin replied as Mizuki felt the paralysis wear off and he fell to the ground. The sleeve where the snake bit him ripped off and he saw a seal forming on his arm, revealing some kind of formula. "When you are ready, Mizuki, come and seek me out," he told him as he retracted the snake. Mizuki began to black out as Orochimaru tossed him the paper he was writing on and disappeared. Then flashback. "Now you know the truth, Subaki. Like I told you, he made his choice. And he paid the price for it. Even if that snake bastard hadn't approached him, he still would have done what he did," Naruto said truthfully as he removed his hands from her face. She opened her eyes and began to cry once more with a slight scowl on her face. "When he was here and he told me what he was going to do, I told him to stop acting stupid. But I never thought that he would do something so," the young woman said bitterly as she bit her lip and thought about what she just saw. "If he could do that to a comrade, he could do it to anyone. Just like he did it to his best friend. If he truly cared about a beautiful camellia like you, he wouldn't have thrown you away," the crimson blonde said as he gently wiped her tears away once more. He then looked down and saw a rough bruise on her wrist. Gently taking her hand, he leaned down and kissed her wrist like a knight would kiss a princess on the hand. "Naruto," Tsubaki said as a huge blush crept up on her face. Why is my heart pounding? He's no longer human and yet I feel strangely close to him. As if he's precious to me," she thought as she placed her hand over it. "Can you feel it, Tsubaki? You know how it feels to be hurt, alone, abandoned and betrayed by someone you once cared about. In that way, you're just like me. You are a kindred spirit. If you thought I was the terrible demon that Mizuki told you I was, you would have never let me in. You know I speak the truth," he said to her in a soft voice. "Yes. I can feel it right here, in the center of my chest. It feels so warm," Tsubaki told him with a smile as she closed her eyes and placed both hands over her heart. "Tsubaki, the reason I came to you was so I could ask you to join us. The choice is yours, but it would give you a second chance at life. The life that Mizuki took from you. You don't deserve to live your life alone with your sins hovering over you. If you stay with me, I'll protect you with my power and my life," Naruto said with a warm smile. "You would do that for me? Even after what I've done?" the young woman asked in disbelief. "Yes. But even if you say no, you will still have my forgiveness, unlike the humans in Konoha," he replied honestly. Tsubaki turned away from him and went into her room as she started to think about Naruto's offer. The crimson blonde walked over and sat down quietly next to Caillou, making sure that he gave her some space. 15 silent minutes passed and Tsubaki came out of the room with a strong look of determination on her face. A look she hasn't had for a long time. "If you think that I won't be a hindrance to you, then I accept your offer to come with you, Naruto," Tsubaki said in a strong voice. "Are you sure, Tsubaki? Once you do this, there's no turning back. Do you understand?" he asked her with a serious look. "Yes. I don't want to live like this anymore. I wish to repent for the sins that I've caused you. Like I said before when I thought you came here to kill me, if you want my life, you may have it," she replied without any doubt. "So be it. If that is your decision, then kneel before me so I can give you some of my strength," he commanded her. She nodded and complied with his request. "Close your eyes and let my power flow through you," he told her. She did just that as the Dark Leader made several unusual hand seals. 9 chakra tails began to swirl around him from behind and hovered over the young woman as she became completely engulfed in red chakra and yoki. 10 minutes later, the process was complete and Naruto's chakra tails and dark energies disappeared. "Tsubaki-chan, former Mednin of Konoha, I welcome you to Corison. Now rise, my beautiful camellia, and join me by my side," Naruto decreed in a joyful voice as she slowly started to rise. Like Anko, Tsubaki looked pretty much the same with her black hair and short ponytail, which still reached only past her neck, but she had more sensuous curves and her body was more toned and physically fit than before, with noticeable, well-defined muscles on her arms, stomach and legs, as if she was a female sports athlete. She wore a white short-sleeved kunoichi shirt with dark pink edges and a red spiral in the front which was cut at the stomach, showing off her abs, belly button and a black bicycle shirt underneath, which covered her chest. She also wore a white skirt with dark pink edges which stopped just above the upper knee that had slits on both sides which showed off her thighs and her customized bicycle shorts underneath. Think Sakura's outfit from Naruto Movie 3 with the shirt and skirt slightly longer. On her hands were white fingerless gloves which covered the knuckles and had red spirals on top and she wore bandages on her ankles and open-toed kunoichi sandals. Once she stood up, he opened his arms out to welcome her into his embrace. She smiled and walked up to him, wrapping her arms around him and gently kissing the cheek she slapped not too long ago. Thank you for giving me a second chance, Naruto-sama. From now on, I'll live my life with you. Subaki said as she leaned her head on his chest. I'm glad to have you by my side, Subaki-chan. I promise to treat you way better than Mizuki ever did. He swore to her as he pulled her away slightly and gave her a soft kiss. I know that you will. I trust you. She said with a warm smile after breaking the kiss. Naruto turned his head and saw that his loyal vixen looked a little down. Ayu-chan, what are you doing standing over there? Come over here and say hello to our new companion. He said cheerfully to her. The Crimson Beauty, who has stayed quiet for the past several minutes, smiled happily and quickly came when her master called her. Welcome to Corison, Subaki. Caillou greeted with a light bow when she came over. Thank you, Caillou. I'm sorry for before. Subaki apologized as she bowed back. Apology accepted. If I was in your position and it was my master, I probably would have done the same. She said with a blush of embarrassment on her face. Well, that's all in the past now. We're on the same side now, so let's do our best for Naruto-kun. The new member of the group said with a smile. Yes, let's both do our best for the master. Caillou said as she nodded in agreement. Come on ladies, Anko-chan and the others are waiting in Rice Field Country. Naruto told them after the two women made up. Yes, Naruto-sama. They both said simultaneously. Subaki-chan, you're our med nin, so bring all the medical equipment you have since we won't be coming back to this place and it'll take time to increase your skill in your field. He said. I understand, Naruto-kun. Subaki said as she went into her room. 20 minutes later, once the young woman had what she needed, the three of them left the house and ran towards their destination at great speeds without looking back. What's wrong, Subaki-chan? The crimson blonde inquired as he looked at her face, which was slightly sad. Sorry, Naruto-kun. I was just thinking about my flower garden. I'm really going to miss it. She said. Don't worry. I know that you'll miss your flower garden. But once Atagakure is ours, I'll find a place for you so you can build a new one. He promised her. Thank you. You're very kind, Naruto-kun. She said with a light blush. Even a demon has a heart, Subaki-chan. Besides, I used to like plants when I was human, the crimson blonde said sadly. Master Caillou said depressingly as she and Subaki looked at him with a concerned frown. Sorry about that. I was just thinking about my past self. Naruto said with a light grin. The women smiled, happy that their leader was okay. Let's hurry on. He said. The women nodded and increased their speed without another word. Rice Field Country Field Center Street. As Naruto and the others hurried on, Anko and the girls looked at a street that had a row of inns and restaurants. I know that Naruto-kun asked us to look for lodging. But this place looks seedy to me. Yakumo said with a frown. Well, if you ask me, this place looks like fun. Besides, if anybody screws with us, we'll just kick their asses. Anko said with her confident smirk. You just love looking for trouble, don't you, Anko? Hinata reprimanded with a rarely seen frown. Stop complaining. Besides, we haven't eaten anything since we left. And I know you two are hungry. The snake mistress said as she pointed to their stomachs. A moment later, their bellies started to growl, causing both girls to blush in embarrassment. See? So come on. It'll be fine. She said as she walked under the arch. I have a bad feeling about this, Hinata. Yakumo said mentally. You and me both, Yakumo. Hinata replied as they started to follow the purple-haired Kunoichi. As they walked down the street, they could feel the dark stares coming from inside a number of the houses. Hinata kept a vigilant eye out while Yakumo had her hand just inches from her kunai holster on her leg. But Anko just kept walking confidently without a care in the world. They eventually walk into a restaurant with a bar that was called the Dance House of Love. As they entered, a number of patrons, including the men who were talking to the women of the establishment in private tables, turned their heads and looked at the entrance. Anko and the girls walked in and sat down at a free table as a middle-aged woman with a purple outfit, black circles under her eyes and a bell attached to her hip walked over to them. What'll it be, ladies? The woman asked as she held a pad. 3 sticks of dango and a small bottle of sweet plum sake. Anko said loudly. Chicken ramen with tea, please. Hinata requested politely. A tonkatsu, a Japanese pork cutlet dish, bowl with tea please. Yakumo requested. The woman nodded and called out to the cook in the back to make their orders. 15 minutes later. Ah yeah. This is some great food. The snake mistress said as she munched down on her favorite treat. Yes. I'm surprised they could make food this good in such a shifty-looking place. The brown-haired Genjutsu maiden agreed as she made sure the other patrons didn't hear her. I'm sure Naruto-kun would like the food here too. The beautiful Hyuga said. I told you there was nothing to worry about. Anko said as she took a sip of the alcohol. They ate the rest of their food without incident until the woman came to their table. Will there be anything else? She asked. No thanks. Thanks a lot for the food though. It was good. Anko said, rubbing her stomach for effect while the girls laughed. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. But before you go, you have to agree to pay this. The woman said with a sly smile as she held up a bill. The women took a closer look, and the moment they saw it, their eyes almost bulged out of their sockets. Are you out of your damn mind? There's no way in hell this food cost this much. The snake mistress yelled in anger as she quickly sat up and slammed her hand on the table. Yeah. There are way too many zeros on it. Yakumo shouted as well as she pointed to it. All the patrons were looking at the scene, waiting for something to happen. Then suddenly, the woman started to laugh. Oh, don't worry, this is just a joke. She chuckled. The girls relaxed slightly and started to laugh along with the woman. That is, until she rang the bell attached to her hip. A moment later, some of the patrons ran out while others began to pull out weapons. A secret door compartment opened up behind the counter, and a large number of bandits wielding swords, axes and clubs came out of them. Well, I guess this isn't a joke. Anko said sheepishly to the others. Gee, you think, Yakumo said sarcastically. Shut up. She hissed back at the woman. Stop it, you two. We've got to take care of this. Hinata told them. They turned their heads to each other and slightly nodded before turning back to the woman. If you want to live, leave your things here and run. Or my men will kill you after they had their fun with you. The woman said menacingly as she stepped back while the bandit stepped forward and laughed darkly. The three girls gave off dark smiles of their own as they stood up slowly from their seats. Hey bitch, here's a little advice. You should never threaten someone after they've finished eating. Anko said with a small growl as she moved her hand slowly onto her plate. Especially if they belong to Corison. She shouted. With great speed, she grabbed the 3 sticks that she ate the dango on and threw them at 3 of the bandits' hands, which pierced their skin and made them grunt in pain and grab their hand, making them drop their weapons. Not wasting a single moment, she kicked the table with so much force that it flew right into the 3, flattening them onto the floor and effectively taking them out. The remaining bandits who saw this tried to move in on the 3 women as they split up into 3 directions to exterminate the pests. Hinata activated her Byakugan and stealthily moved towards the group after her with great speed. One of them swung a hacksaw sword towards her head, but the indigo blue-haired girl easily ducked it and angled her hand to strike the wrist he was holding the weapon with. Once he was disarmed, she gave him 3 quick palm thrusts into his chest, finishing up with a spinning roundhouse kick to his head which threw into a table. Hinata ducked again as an axe came at her upper torso. Heading as low as possible, she sweep-kicked the large man onto the ground and then struck him with a jukin, gentle fist, strike in the heart as soon as he landed, killing him instantly. She then turned her body and stood up with an upward palm thrust at another bandit coming her way, hitting him right in the chin. She followed up with a powerful thrust to his chest, throwing him into the liquor shelves behind the counter. Keeping her Kekkei Genkai and her senses at full alert, she sensed the final 2 bandits from her group coming at her, preparing to swing their weapons simultaneously on both sides of her. She waited for the right time, and as soon as they came close enough to her, she made a small jump and landed upside down with her hands gripping both of the men's wrists. A second later, she spread her legs to both sides and split-kicked the both of them in their heads, turning her body to gracefully land on her feet while they crashed into the wall. Looking at all the unconscious bandits around her, she smiled with satisfaction. I wish Naruto-kun had seen this. She thought to herself. On another side of the restaurant, Yakumo was having her fair share of excitement as she skillfully dodged her group of bandits' attacks. While doing so, she pulled out a small paintbrush and a number of blank pieces of thin paper. Biting down on her thumb, she quickly began to write down a number of kanji signs on each one in blood while continuing to dodge the men's powerful but slow swings and thrusts. Once she was done, she returned the small brush back to her holster and stood back from her enemies. Wow. This girl is so fast. One of the bandits said. Maybe, but she must be getting tired if she's backing up. Another bandit said. Not really. I just wanted some space to throw these. Yakumo said as she held up the parchments and threw them at the bandits, which stuck onto their chests. The bandits looked down at the papers and started to laugh at the young woman. Ah ha ha. That really hurt, little girl. The first bandit laughed. Oh, it will hurt in a minute. More than you can imagine. The Jinjutsu maiden said with a wicked smile as she made a hand seal and said Meijin Hijutsu. Oni Meido Gofo, demonic illusion secret technique. Demon mark talisman. A second later, the kanji written in blood completely covered the parchments until they were red. And suddenly, a bandit screamed as a small demon burst out of his chest, spewing blood all over the place and started to eat his inner organs. This happened to the other bandits as well as they screamed and fell to the ground while the small demons continued to feast on their corpses. The young woman crossed her arms and watched in amusement. With a wave of her hand, the small demons disappeared and the talismans burned away. Well done, my ugly devil, she said with a dark laugh. Finally, Anko was having fun with her group as she parried their weapon strikes with Kusanagi, countering them with attacks of her own, cutting off a head or two and eviscerating a couple of others of their lower extremities. Lifting up her arm, she shouted Senijashu, hidden shadow snake hand. As a number of snakes came out of her sleeve and wrapped themselves around the last of the bandits. Stabbing the ground with her sword, she made a couple of one-handed seals and bellowed Kaiten. Ryuka no Jutsu, fire release. Dragon fire technique. As she breathed fire along the snakes which went straight to the bandits, setting them ablaze. Calling the snakes back, she cut the air to remove the blood from her legendary sword and calmly returned it to its sheath as the men ran around screaming until they fell to the ground lifelessly. Heh. These guys aren't even a warm-up. The snake mistress said with her trademark smile. Boo, who the hell are these people? The woman thought to herself as she kneeled in a corner, shaking in fear. I better get reinforcements or they'll destroy us all. She added as she quickly got up and ran to the door. But the door suddenly slid open and in front of her, a young man with two women behind him stood in her way. Going somewhere, old hag. Naruto said with a sly smile as the middle-aged woman fell on her rear end in shock. Naruto-kun. Anko, Hinata and Yakumo said at the same time. If you were planning to call more dogs, don't bother. We already put them down. He told her with an evil laugh as he pointed outside behind him. The woman stood up slowly and looked outside at where he was pointing and gasped in horror as various bandits were strewed across the whole street. They were either groaning in pain or dead as they were covered with mini scalpels, kunai or burns. Are you alright, my ladies? He asked the girls in the restaurant. We're fine, Naruto-kun. This old bitch tried to rob and kill us. But she and her cronies learned firsthand just who they were messing with. Anko said proudly as Hinata and Yakumo nodded their heads in agreement. I sensed you guys were in danger and we hurried over here. But I guess there was no need to worry. I'm glad that all of you are safe. The crimson blonde said happily as he held out his arms to them. They each walked up to him and accepted his embrace, each receiving a passionate kiss as a reward. Now that it's over, ladies, meet our newest companion. She will be our resident Mednin. He said after the love fest as he moved to the side so that they could see her. Well, this is a surprise. It's been a long time, Subaki. The snake mistress said nostalgically. Indeed it has, Anko. It's good to see you again. Subaki said with a friendly bow. After you quit being a ninja, I figured you'd still be pining over that loser Mizuki. She said as she slapped her shoulder. Yes, well, Naruto-kun gave me another chance to live my life with happiness instead of loneliness. The Mednin said with a blush. In any case, we're glad to have you. I'm Kurama Yakumo. Nice to meet you. The Jinjutsu maiden said and she walked up and introduced herself. And I'm Hyuga Hinata. Welcome to Corison. The beautiful girl greeted warmly. Thank you. All of you. Subaki said with a smile of joy. Well, since we can't stay around here since most of the people fled, we'd better find another place to stay. Naruto said as his ladies nodded in agreement. He then picked up the middle-aged woman who was still on the floor and grabbed her by the collar of her shirt. Hey old hag. Is there any place near here that has food and lodging? He asked her in a commanding tone as his red eyes glowed faintly. Why yes. Post Town is just a few miles away from here. There's a big place called the White Kitty. It has a female white cat lying on its side wearing lipstick and a pink dress. You can't miss it. She replied shaking like a leaf. Thank you. It's too bad that you tried to kill my lady's old hag. Otherwise, I would have let you go. The crimson blonde said with an evil grin as he walked into the restaurant, holding her off her feet with one hand and sat her down in a table far to the back of the restaurant. Caillou-chan, that dead bandit over there has some rope. Would you get it for me please? He asked her sweetly. Of course Naruto-sama. She said obediently as she knelt down and grabbed the rope. After giving it to her master, the dark leader tied up her arms, legs and body around the chair she was sitting on so that the woman couldn't escape. What are you going to do to me? The middle-aged woman asked in a mouse-like voice. Did you know that snakes are considered a delicacy in some countries? Naruto asked her as she turned to Anko with a smirk. She returned the smirk right back and walked up to the woman. Caillou-chan, open this human's mouth. He ordered. Yes master. She said as she grabbed the woman's mouth by the jaw and forced her mouth open, keeping it open by roughly holding onto her cheeks. Once that was done, the dark leader turned to his snake mistress and nodded. She returned the nod and raised her arm out as a single black mamba snake came out of her sleeve. I hope you enjoy your last meal. Now say ah. Naruto said as him and girls let out a wicked laugh. Hhhh. The middle-aged woman screamed as the snake shot out and went right into her mouth and down her throat. After the last meal, the dark leader and his women took any tools, items and money they could find from the dead bandits and left Field Center Street. In the now deathly quiet restaurant once tactily called the Dance House of Love, the lights were now off and the middle-aged woman, who was the owner of the establishment she used to rob and kill hungry travelers who foolishly entered, laid still in the back of the restaurant. She was still tied up with her eyes now glassy and empty, signaling she had long since stopped breathing. As her last meal slithered out of her mouth and onto the floor, the outrageous bill that she tried to hit Anko, Hinata and Yukuma with was taped to her chest. On it was written in dark ink. "Thanks for the meal. It was delicious. Corison." With a red spiral written in red ink on the bottom of the message. Post town an hour later, with the events of Field Center Street behind them, the dark group headed to the White Kitty which the restaurant owner bandit leader recommended. As they went through the door, they saw that this place had it all. A hotel, restaurant, casino and an entertainment area where exotic dancers were dancing on stage. "I think I'm going to like it here," Naruto thought with a Cheshire-like grin as they walked up to the counter. "Give us a private floor with 5 rooms for the night and breakfast in the morning," he told the receptionist in an authoritative tone. "Yes, sir," the receptionist said quickly as she started to make the reservations. After that was done, he paid for the rooms and the receptionist passed him a card with a picture of a white cat on it. "This is a special VIP card. The food, casino and entertainment areas are free tonight and are only given to our high-spending customers. Please enjoy your stay," she said as she bowed to him. "Thanks, cutie. I appreciate it," the crimson blonde said with a wink, making the young woman blush and let out a dreamy sigh. Once that was done, Naruto immediately went to the restaurant first since he, Caillou and Subaki hadn't eaten yet. Once the large bowls of ramen and other dishes were devoured, they decided to head to the entertainment center to see the show. A number of women in pink dresses were there. Some were dancing on stage and on the floor, while others were entertaining the male customers. Naruto sat at the table with the girls and watched the show for a while. "What's wrong, Naruto-kun? Aren't you having fun?" Anko asked. "Well, the show isn't bad, but seeing the same number gets kind of boring. And I'd rather have my ladies entertaining me instead," Naruto replied with a sultry voice at the end, making his ladies blush all at once. "Well, I think I could arrange that, Naruto-kun," the snake mistress said in a sexy voice of her own as she got up. "Come on, Caillou, let's entertain our Naruto-kun," she said. The foxy woman looked at her master for a moment. He nodded, giving his permission, and the 2 women went to the back of the stage. A few minutes later, Anko walked over to the band and whispered into their ear. The band leader smiled and nodded his head. 5 minutes later, the DJ stopped the music and went to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed that 2 women have requested the manager to do a special performance to a young man named Naruto. So whoever Naruto is, would you please come closer to the stage in our special lap dance chair?" the DJ said. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise when he heard the announcement, but then he smiled and blushed as he walked up to the front of the stage and sat in the special lap dance chair as he removed his cloak and handed it to Hinata, who held onto it for him in their original chairs. A spotlight flashed on him and the guys started to cheer at the lucky guy who was about to get a special show. Then a familiar voice came from behind the curtain. "This special dance is for you, Naruto-kun. I hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoy being with you. Hit it, boys," Anko said from behind the curtain in her boisterous voice. A moment later, the lights dimmed down with the exception of the spotlight on the dark leader and everyone got quiet as the band began to play a smooth melody with their guitars while the leader of the band begins to sing. Watching her, strolling in the night, so white, wondering why, it's only after dark. As the first verse of the song is sung, Anko and Caillou come out from behind the curtain. What Naruto sees makes him smile from ear to ear and the men whistle and holler in delight. Anko was wearing an extremely sexy dark red bikini with a blue snake wrapped around her shoulders, while Caillou was in a slightly see-through black bikini, her fox ears and tail showing themselves to the world. But since the men thought they were just props since the exotic dancers occasionally wear cat ears and tails, they couldn't care less. The vixen seductively walks up to her master as the snake mistress dances on the stage. Not surprisingly, he keeps his eyes on both of his women. In her eyes, a distant firelight burns bright, wondering why, it's only after dark. Caillou slowly comes down the stage, moving her perfect hips back and forth in a hypnotic fashion until she's in front of him. She turns around and shakes her foxtail in front of him and ceremoniously sits on his lap. As she grinds her ass into his crotch, the crimson blonde shows his appreciation by gently kissing her ear and her cheek. One of his hands begins to alternately caress her sexy leg and beautiful stomach while the other massages her fluffy and sensitive fox ears. The crimson beauty can't help herself and begins to moan lustfully and grinds harder into him, completely intoxicated by her master's touch and scent. All the while, Naruto's eyes continue to watch Anko as moves her body like a glorious iron, knowing that all the men were under her spell and their eyes were on her and her dancing partner. As the music from the guitar gets louder and the drums begin to play, the snake mistress begins to head down to join Naruto and Caillou. I find myself in her room, feel the fever of my doom, falling through the floor. I'm knocking on the devil's door. As the music died down to a lull and the guitars begin to play slowly, the purple-haired dancer stepped up to Naruto, sashaying her hips seductively until she was in front of him as the blue snake she held on her shoulders disappeared. Caillou senses this and sits up from his lap, keeping one of her hands on his shoulder while slowly moving behind her master. Once she's behind him, she wraps her arms around his neck loosely and presses her voluptuous breasts onto his back. Naruto could smell her arousal as she laid butterfly kisses on his ears and neck, making him sigh and groan in appreciation. Anko then sat on his lap, with her legs spread on both sides. Placing her arms on his shoulders, she gives him a sultry smile. As a solo guitarist begins to play his tunes, the crimson blonde captures Anko's lips in a passionate kiss, while Caillou continues to kiss his ears and neck. As if on instinct, the Dark Leader pulls Anko closer with one hand as he conquers the Snake Mistress's mouth, while his other hand reaches up and strokes one of his vixen's ears, making her moan in appreciation, while she nibbles his ear. They break the kiss, and Caillou immediately takes over by moving her head closer to his face. Naruto moves his head to accommodate her and claims her lips, while Anko slowly goes under his crimson shirt and caresses his chest with her hands, making him groan into Caillou's mouth. The Dark Leader rewards the Snake Mistress by squeezing and caressing her behind with his free hand, making her moan and speed up her ministrations on his chest. After the kiss was broken, the women both lifted him up to stand. Naruto looked back at Hinata, Yakumo and Subaki, who were watching the dance, happy that he was having fun now. The ladies see him lift his hand and make a gesture, telling them to come join in. Although a bit embarrassed by the request, they come and join them. Anko dances sensuously in front of Naruto, occasionally grinding her behind in his crotch, while Caillou continues to hold him from behind and press her breasts into his back more while dancing and moving along with the song. Naruto uses his arms to hold his girls on both sides, alternating between Hinata, Yakumo and Subaki, claiming their lips with passionate kisses, while one of them dances with the other two. Even Hinata and Subaki, who would never do this if they were still as shy, danced pretty well. Anko and Caillou occasionally received some loving attention, as well as the six of them danced and had fun, as the last verse of the song, which was shorter than the original track, was sung. Burning, in the flame, now I know her secret name, you can tear her temple down, but she'll be back and rule again. And as the guitar plays slowly once more, Corison dances slowly and enjoys the rhythm of the song, until it comes to an end with the last pluck of the guitar and beat of the drum. When the music stops, Naruto's women gave him a Major League group hug which he gladly returned, as the men in the audience stood up and gave them a rousing standing ovation. They all turned around and saw all the men and several women clapping, whistling and hollering. They looked at each other and smiled as they all took a bow. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a round of applause for the greatest special lap dance in the history of the White Kitty. The DJ said as the men began to clap louder. Now that's what I call a fucking show. One of the men shouted, making the women dancers become jealous and envious of Naruto's ladies. Whoever this Naruto guy is, he is one lucky bastard. Another shouted as he whistled to them, wishing that he was the crimson blonde right now. 15 minutes of changing and autograph signing later, after Anko and Caillou changed back into their clothes and they, along with Naruto and the other girls, signed autographs, they stopped off at the bar for a nightcap. Well, Naruto-kun, did you have fun tonight? Anko asked as she held a cup of sweet plum sake in her hand. Do you even need to ask? All of you were great. Naruto said joyfully, causing all of them to blush and smile sweetly at him. I can't believe we were dancing like that while everyone watched us. I never even danced like that in Konoha when I went out. Subaki said with an embarrassing blush. I know how you feel, Subaki. It was a bit embarrassing, but it was fun. Hinata said happily. I agree. I never felt so free. I would have never done that at home when I was weak. Yakumo said. What about you, Caillou-chan? Was it fun to dance for me? Naruto asked in a romantic voice. Yes, Naruto-sama. I had a great time dancing with you, the Crimson Beauty replied honestly with her face as red as a beet. It was great dancing with you too, Caillou-chan. I hope we can all dance together again. He said with a warm smile. I would like that, my master. Caillou said happily. Well, it's already past midnight. We should head upstairs to get some sleep. Naruto said. All the women nodded as they started to yawn at the same time, busting out in laughter a minute later over it. After finishing their drinks, they were heading out of the bar when a group of 5 men blocked their way, looking to get in on the action. Hey there, guy. Are you the Naruto who was part of that dance with those chicks? The head of the group asked in a rude way. Yeah, that's right. What do you want? I'm tired, so make it quick. Naruto said in an annoyed tone. Well, the boys and I were wondering if you were willing, in a manner of speaking, to share the love. The man said while his friends laughed at his witty humor. Corison all sighed exasperatedly in unison. No. The ladies are with me. Now get lost, creeps. He growled in a low voice as he broke through them and walked past them. The guys protested, but they just ignored them until the leader says something that he will soon regret. I never expected you to be a coward, you red-eyed freak. The lead man shouted as the crowd started to ah, as if they were egging him on. It was there that Naruto stopped dead in his tracks. He lowers his head until his hair covers his eyes and lets out an evil yet humorous laugh, making the men cringe. They're in for it now. Naruto's ladies all thought simultaneously. So that's how you want to play it, huh? Fine. We'll play a little game. And we play for keeps. Naruto said as he turned around and gave them a dark grin as his crimson eyes glowed for a second. What kind of game? The lead man asked. A simple kid's game called Slap Hands. It'll be the best 3 out of 5. All of you against me. If you get me, you can hit me any way you want. He explained. Anyway? The lead man asked for confirmation. Anyway. Punch, kicks, low blows, anything goes. But if I get you, I get to hit you any way I want. He said with a dark chuckle as he put emphasis at the end. What do we get if we win? One of the men asked. Well, if you win, you can have all the girls for the night and you can do anything you want to them. The crimson blonde replied, making the men cheer. Then Naruto-kun. Hinata stammered in his mind worriedly over what he said. Are you sure about this, Naruto-kun? Subaki asked with concern. It's alright, ladies. Trust me. He replied to all of them as he turned to them and gave them a reassuring smile, which they happily returned while they all nodded in unison. And what do you get if you win? The lead man asked with a smirk. When I win, I get every dime all of you have. No ifs, ands or buts. Naruto said with a confident smile. What do you say, do we have a deal? He asked as he reached out his hand and gave him a grin, as if the man was about to make a deal with the devil. You're on. It'll be worth it to get these sexy women. The lead man said as he took Naruto's hand and shook it to seal the deal. I'll go first. He then said. Not so fast. Since I came up with this game, I get to go first. And I choose you. Naruto said as he pointed to a large man. The man snorted and walked up to him and placed his hands down, palms facing up. Naruto stepped up and placed his hands just an inch away from the man's, with his palms facing down. The man tried to pull a fast one and attempted to slap Naruto's hands quickly, but he quickly dodged the slap and slapped his instead. The men groaned in disappointment while the women cheered. Well, that's 1 point for me. Naruto said with a chuckle. Fine. Take your best shot. There's no way you can hurt me. The large man said arrogantly as his friends agreed with him. We'll see about that. The crimson blonde said with a smile. Bartender, can I see that? He said in a gentlemanly tone to the woman running the bar as he pointed to a stick made completely of ivory that had a golden handle. Sure. Have fun with it, handsome. The sexy barkeep said in a flirtatious voice as she tossed it to him. Thank you, sexy thing. He said politely, which made her blush along with his girls. He patted it on one of his hands to test it. It was lightweight but sturdy and strong. This will do nicely. He thought to himself as a sly smile crossed his face. He turned around and gave the large man a dark grin. With great speed, he swung the ivory stick right into his ribs, breaking 3 of them. The large man screamed in pain and fell to the ground, clutching them as pure agony, while the bar patrons watched and winced in pity for the guy. Oh Kami. My ribs, my ribs. The large man yelled. Naruto kneeled down and looked at the man with a curious look on his face. Hey creep, let me ask you something. He said in an amusing tone. Does it hurt? He asked him as he extended the last word and started to bust out laughing. And people say I'm sadistic. Anko chuckled inwardly while enjoying the festivities. You bastard. You're gonna pay for that. One of the men yelled as he stepped up to him. Naruto quickly stood up and pointed the ivory stick at the guy, stopping him in his tracks. Not so fast. Remember the rules we agreed on. If I win, I can hit you any way I want. The crimson blonde reminded them as he tapped the guy's cheek with the stick 4 times. But since you're so eager to get a shot at me, you can go next. He told him with a sinister grin. The man visibly gulped and regretted his action since his hands had to be on top since Naruto won the first exchange. Come on. You're a man, right? You want these beautiful women, right? Put your hands up. He shouted at him angrily as he placed his hands down. The man did as he was told and slowly placed his hands on top. Naruto faked him a couple of times, which made him flinch in fear. After the 3rd time, he swiftly slapped his hands, making the men groan even louder and the ladies, as well as several patrons and the barkeep cheer. Hey, look at that. I win again. Naruto said in a mock kitty-like voice. The second man looked like he was about to wet his pants at what the dark leader had in mind for him. Please don't hit me in the ribs. He pleaded. Oh, don't worry. I'm not going to hit you there. But let me ask you something. The dark leader said. What is it? The second man asked. When you were charging at me about a couple minutes ago, what were you going to do to me? Naruto asked him with a sly smile. I was going to punch you in the face. He replied nervously. Really? The crimson blonde said as he rubbed his chin as if he was in deep thought. Caillou-chan, grab the hand he was going to hit me with, put it down on the table and hold it there so he can't escape. He ordered his crimson beauty. Yes, Naruto-sama. Caillou said eagerly as she walked to the man and grabbed him by the wrist, placing it on the table and holding it down. The man tried to squirm his way out of her grip, but it was useless as she kept the man's hand down. Naruto walked up towards his victim, slowly tapping the ivory stick into his other hand while beaming with glee. "No. Please, don't." The second man whimpered as tears began to fall from his eyes. But it fell on deaf ears as Naruto walked up and pulled back his arm with the ivory stick in it. "Here comes the pain." The crimson blood chuckled. Then with the same speed as before, he came down and smashed his hand, completely shattering it. Caillou let go of him afterwards, and the second man wailed in absolute pain as he held his wrist and joined his large friend on the ground. "Oh yes. I wanna hear you scream." "Yoo-hoo ha 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 ha. Just kidding." Naruto said as he roared with laughter at the spectacle as the second man continued to scream in pain. The head man who started all this felt like running away at that very moment. He wasn't sure if Naruto was sadistic or just plain crazy. "Well, if I get one more of you guys, I get all of your cash. So I'm saving the best for last. You, step forward," he said as he pointed to the lead man. "Oh Kami," the lead man groaned inwardly as he stepped up and prepared himself. He placed his hands on top while Naruto placed his on the bottom. The man was sweating, but the crimson blonde kept his cool. No one made a move for a whole minute and the tension was building up in the bar as the patrons, barkeep, and all that were involved in the game looked on. And suddenly, the lead man smirked and his hands turned blue for a second, hoping Naruto wouldn't notice. Unfortunately, the dark leader did as the lead man swiftly tried to slap his hands faster than normal, only to be countered and get his hand slapped. But Naruto wasn't pleased like the last two times, he was angry. And he showed it by punching the man in the face, making him fall onto the floor. "You cheating bastard. You tried to use chakra to increase the speed in your hands, so you could slap me. I beat all of you fair and square, and you pull a stunt like this," Naruto growled as his red eyes glowed brightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." The lead man denied as he wiped some blood from his mouth and stood up. "Don't try to lie. The six of us are ninjas. Naruto-kun didn't use any chakra, but you just did." Subaki said as the other ladies nodded in agreement. "And in case you didn't know, even if your chakra is visible for a moment, a skilled ninja can still sense it, baka, idiot." Anko said with a sneer. The lead man knew he was in real trouble when he heard that. He only had little ninja skills since he quit being a ninja and lived as a civilian. It never crossed his mind that they were ninjas, let alone experienced ones. "You lose, you jerk. But just for cheating, I get another hit. So get your ass over here, now." Naruto growled to the man. He was about to make a break for it when Caillou appeared behind him and dragged him in front of her master. "Before you receive your punishment, there's something I want to say to you," he said in a dangerously low voice as he grabbed the ivory stick. What is it?" The lead man stammered. "There was a young boy who once lived in a village full of hateful people who used to call him a number of names, one of them being freak. It seemed like nothing to the adults who called him these things, but it hurt the young boy to the core. They didn't care about how he felt, and that hurt and hate consumed that young boy until he was no more," the dark leader said in a surprisingly soft voice. "Naruto-kun Hinata," Subaki and Yakumo said sadly, while Anko and Caillou frowned. "So when you're healing up from what I'm about to do, remember this. Think about a person's feelings when you say something hurtful to them. Because that person just might make you pay for it." Naruto shouted at the end as he swung the ivory stick and slammed it right into the lead man's family jewels, making the male patrons wince and grab their crotch while the rest of the crowd hooted at the sight. When the man leaned down and grabbed his bruised marbles, Naruto followed up with a shot to the back, finishing him with an uppercut swing to his head, which effectively knocked him out. "You too. Empty your pockets and theirs of all the money and put it on this table." He commanded the remaining two that were still standing. They quickly took out their wallets and pulled out their money, placing it on the table. They then sifted through their fallen friends' wallets and repeated the same task. "I suggest you get these three to a hospital quickly. And you better pray to Kami I never see any of you again. Or I just might kill you." The crimson blonde growled angrily. The two men nodded their heads in understanding as one guy took the lead man and second man, while the other guy carried the large guy of the place. As soon as they left, the patrons in the bar surprisingly cheered. Naruto just tiredly lifted his hand and gave them a weary smile as he walked to the counter with the ivory stick, returning it to her. "Why is everyone cheering for me?" Naruto asked curiously. "Those jerks you trashed have been bothering and harassing our customers for a long time. Thanks for getting rid of them for good, handsome," the bartender said appreciatively. "No need for thanks. I just taught them a lesson in manners," he said honestly. "Why don't you and your lady friend settle down and have some drinks? They're on the house." "You earned it, handsome," she offered. "Thanks for the offer, sexy thing. But my ladies and I are tired and we need to rest. But can you make a tab for us?" the dark leader requested. "Sure, handsome. I'll talk to the manager and see if I can get all of you a lifetime pass here at the White Kitty," she said. We'll be looking forward to it. He said with a warm smile. Before you go, what's your name? The bartender asked. The name's Uzumaki Naruto. Leader of Corison and the future leader of Hokage. But let's keep that last part between us. He whispered to her in a smooth voice. My lips are sealed Naruto-sama, she said flirtatiously as she sensuously added the suffix to his name to tease him. She put her hand in her blouse and pulled out a card and handed it to him. This is my personal phone number. Call me sometime handsome. She whispered into his ear. You got it sexy thing, he whispered back as he licked her ear, giving her a pleasant shiver through her body. After waving good night to the patrons, he grabbed the money he won along with his black cloak and headed to the hotel section with his female entourage right beside him. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? Subaki asked with concern as she looked at his tired face. Yeah, I'm just tired. Even now, the hateful names still get to me, Naruto said with a weary smile. The Mednin took his hand and gave a gentle squeeze, while the others smiled at him to give their support. Naruto couldn't help but smile back at all of them. In one night, he went from being hated and alone to having loyal companions who loved him because they too, at one time, were alone. He was truly grateful to have them just as they were grateful to have him. The next day, as the 6 members woke up late in the morning due to their late-night escapades, they all came out of their rooms and headed downstairs for some breakfast. Despite all of them being in 5 separate rooms, all the women slept in Naruto's arms, thanks to some shadow clones. Though he never mentioned which woman he was with, they really didn't care since all of them kissed, cuddled and slept peacefully in the arms of their leader. After the peaceful meal, they went to the front desk and were stopped by the receptionist. She handed Naruto a platinum card which gave him a free lifetime pass and a major league discount at the White Kitty. He asked her why she was giving it to him and said that it was a gift from the manager for last night in regards to Anko and Kayu's dance and the incident in the bar. Not to look a gift horse in the mouth, he graciously accepted it and was about to walk out the door when a sexy woman ran up to him. Excuse me handsome, but is your name by any chance Naruto? The sexy woman questioned. The woman had curly blonde hair and was wearing a long purple dress which showed a nice amount of her cleavage and had a slit on her side, showing off one of her sexy long legs. Yes it is. But who are you? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Oh yes, forgive my manners. My name is Eliza. She said in a sultry voice. Well my beautiful Eliza, what can I do for you? He questioned as she blushed at the compliment. I have a good friend who knows a lot about Hokage. Eliza said. As soon as the word Hokage came out of her mouth, the mood drastically changed. How does this woman know about us going to Hokage? Yakumo asked as they group spoke to each other telepathically. She probably heard us talking about it while eating dinner or when we were at the bar. Subaki deduced. What should we do master? Kaio asked. Well, let's see what happens. Besides, we could get something from this. Naruto replied as the women slightly nodded in agreement. Oh really, he said with a look of mock surprise. Yes. Are you and your friends coming? The blonde woman asked as she swiveled her hip seductively and spun a finger on his cloak while walking past him. Lead the way beautiful, he answered as they walked out together. They walked together to a spot which was just around the corner from the White Kitty. His house is at the end of this alley. Eliza said as she pointed to a rundown shack far in the back. Thanks. Anko said as the 6 of them started to walk inside. You know this is a trap Naruto-kun. She told him in her mind while giving him a smirk. Yes, I know. The crimson blonde said while giving her a grin as he looked back slightly and saw Eliza staying behind with a smirk on her face. A minute later, several wooden planks came down behind them, blocking the way out of the alley. Get ready my ladies. He told them as they nodded in unison and got into a battle stance, covering all sides. Well look what we have here. A bunch of trapped rats. A man called out. They all looked up to see a number of bandits carrying bows and arrows. Standing on top of the alleyway arch was a man wearing a white and purple sleeveless haori with brown pants and shirt and a large sword strapped to his back while being surrounded by 2 bandits on both sides. More bandits, this is getting really old. Anko whispered in a pout, making the others laugh. Are you sure these guys got money Eliza? A thief asked as he turned his head to see the woman right next to him on the rooftop. Yeah, it's fine. I saw the cash they had with my own eyes last night. She said with her arms crossed. Can I rip the purple whore's head off Naruto-sama? Kai requested with a low growl. Relax Kaio-chan. Naruto replied calmly as he raised his hand. Quit babbling. Just finish them off already. The head bandit on the alley archway commanded. Yes, boss. They all answered as they drew their arrows from their quivers and pulled back on their bows. Hey Blondie. This is what happens when you let the wrong head do the thinking. The head thief said with a laugh. And what head do you think out of jackass? Because I'm sure it's not from the empty space between your shoulders. Anko huffed, making the leader's face turn red with anger. Erg. You'll pay for that. Fire. He said as the thieves let their arrows loose. Hinata-chan, now. Naruto said quickly. The indigo-haired beauty immediately activated her Byakugan and got into a Jukin stance. Aki Hyaku Nijihachi Sho, 8 trigrams 128 palms. Hinata shouted as she jumped in the air. Moving at incredible speed, she strikes every single one of the arrows coming at them, the quivers, and all of the bandits' wrists with super quick strikes without wasting a single motion. To her, it was as if everything were moving in slow motion, because when she landed back on the ground gracefully, the bandits dropped their now useless bows and bent down clutching their arms, as their chakra points were now sealed and their arms were useless. Eliza, the head thief and the ones beside them look at them in complete and utter shock. Nice try. But to someone like Hinata-chan, you're moving at a snail's pace. Naruto said with a dark mocking laugh. You bastard. The head thief yelled defiantly. What an idiot. He knows he's lost and he's still trying to act tough. Why are all these stupid ass bandits like this? Anko thought with a sigh. Hey jackass, I'm in a hurry. Do you know anything about a Togaku or not? And you better answer nicely if you wish to live by lunchtime. Naruto growled angrily as his red eyes glowed. If you think I look like someone who would answer that easily, then you are a fool. He said. Humph. Aren't you the pot calling the kettle black? Yakumo said dryly, making everyone laugh. Nice one Yakumo. Naruto chuckled, causing the young woman to smile. Wait a minute. Are you guys ninja? The head thief asked suddenly. Maybe. Anko replied with a smirk. Interesting. Well, even though we're thieves now, we are also known as the Fuma clan of Rice Field Country. In return for your life and your money, we can let you guys join us. He said. Corison looked at each other silently for a minute, then turned around and roared in hysterical laughter at his offer, leaving the other bandits completely stunned and confused. Hee 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 hee. Ha ha ha. You guys are ninjas, Naruto asked hysterically as he wiped tears of laughter from his eyes and held his stomach as he continued to bust out laughing. But Subaki started. Hinata added. Unchikayu added on. The Yakumo added as well. Crap. Anko finally finished as they continued to laugh hard at the head thief. Shut up. Don't think that just because of your fancy clothes makes you guys the real thing. One of the thieves next to their leader snapped. A second later, the laughter stopped and the dark leader of Corison unleashed a wave of killer intent, making him cringe in fear. Be silent. Or be silenced, Naruto roared at the thief as his eyes glowed eerily, which effectively shut up him and all the other thieves. You, the jackass with the large sword. What's your name? He asked as he pointed at him. Humph. I'm Hanzaki, the leader of the Fuma clan here in Post Town. He replied, despite Naruto's rudeness. Well Hanzaki, I challenge you for the leadership of your clan. If I win, you and the others will work for me, without question and without dispute. The crimson blonde said. Fine. I accept your challenge. Hanzaki snapped back. Good. Now why don't you come down here and show me how much of a ninja you are? I'll even let you make the first move. The dark leader said as his lady stepped back and he opened his cloak, getting into a battle stance. You will regret those words after I cut you in two, you arrogant brat. He said as he pulled out his large sword from his back. Naruto told as he taunted him with a finger. The man growled in anger and jumped off the arch as he swung his sword down at him. Fuma Ninkin. Zanbato, Fuma ninja sword. Slicing blade. Hanzaki shouted at him. Naruto just stood there and waited. Just as the sword looked like it was about to strike Naruto's head, the crimson blonde just sidestepped the attack easily, causing the sword to hit nothing but dirt. Too slow, Naruto said as he landed. A moment later, Hanzaki was rewarded with a punch to the stomach, which took the air out of the ninja bandit leader. He followed up with another punch to his lower jaw and a roundhouse kick to his chest which sent him flying. As soon as his foot landed, Naruto made a few quick hand seals and shouted Kaiten. Hasenka no Jutsu, fire release. Phoenix immortal fire technique. As he blew multiple balls of flame which pummeled the thief and blasted him out of the alley past the wooden planks. Bastard. How dare you attack our leader? One of the bandits on the archway shouted angrily as he jumped to the ground. What are you whining about? Your leader accepted Naruto-kun's challenge. It's not his fault that he's a wimp and tried to hit him with an attack even a genin could have dodged. Anko said bluntly. Damn you. We won't let you get away with it. The other thief that was standing on the archway growled as he jumped down to the ground as well. The bandits that could fight jumped down and were about to attack them when a voice called out to them. Wait a minute. Hanzaki shouted as he busted through what was left of the wooden planks. He was standing straight but was covered with bruises and numerous burns. Oh? You want more, Hanzaki? Well, I won't hold back this time. Naruto shouted as he about to prepare for another attack. But instead of the ninja bandit getting into a defensive position, he knelt down on his hands and knees and bowed to him, shocking everyone in the alley. I sincerely apologize to you. I never felt such powerful attacks. Would you please tell us your names, he requested with humility in his voice. Alright, let us introduce ourselves. Naruto said as he turned to his ladies. I am the Mednin Subaki. Subaki said as she stepped up. I'm Kurama Yakumo, mistress of Genjutsu. Yakumo said as she stepped up as well. I'm Hyuga Hinata, a wielder of the Taijutsu-style Jukin. Hinata added proudly as she walked up. I'm Kaiu, the companion and loyal servant of my master Naruto-sama. Kaiu said as she stood by Naruto's left side. I'm Mitarashi Anko, the mistress of all snakes and owner of the legendary sword Kusanagi. Anko said with a smirk as she stood by Naruto's right side. And I'm Uzumaki Naruto, soon-to-be new leader of Atagakure no Sado, Rice Field Country and much more. Naruto said with his trademark grin. Together, we are known as Corison. He added with pride. When Hanzaki heard the introductions, the blood drained from his face and he became as pale as a sheet. You guys better bow down and beg for your lives. This guy and his companions are the ones who the rumors say not only put Konoha and Fire Country on lockdown, but wiped out the bandits and their leader at Field Center Street in a single stroke. You'll all be killed otherwise. Hanzaki said like a frightened rabbit as he looked at all of them. All the other bandits' eyes widened in shock after hearing the infamy of the group and immediately bowed down to Naruto's feet and started to mumble apologies, making the dark leader smirk in satisfaction. We humbly apologize for our rudeness Naruto Bozu, Boss Naruto. We had no idea who you and your companions were. Please forgive us. Please forgive us. He begged and pleaded as they all continued to apologize to them. Boss Naruto huh? Sounds good to me. The crimson blonde thought with an evil grin. Wow. News travels fast in this country. Yakumo said telepathically. Yes. It seems so. Subaki added. If these bandits know what happened in Konoha, then that means that Atagakure knows about it too. Hinata deduced. You're right. That means when we head there, they'll be expecting us. Kaiu said. But they don't know how strong we are. So we still have the edge in the element of surprise. Anko explained. I agree. It looks like this fight has been helpful to us after all. Naruto said. The women nodded in agreement and returned their attention to the bandits. Naruto asked Kaiu in his mind if Hanzaki and the others were sincere in their apologies. She nodded in confirmation. Alright everyone, please stand. The master forgives you. Kaiu said as she raised a hand for them to rise. Thank you so much boss. Hanzaki said as the others thanked him as well. Alright, enough of that. Is there any place where we can talk in private? Naruto questioned the now former leader of the Fuma clan of Post Town. Yes, boss. Your clan owns the White Kitty. We can talk there. Hanzaki answered in a friendly tone. Good. Let's head there. Subaki-chan, take care of Hanzaki's and the others' wounds. Anko, you and the others find out as much as you can about the country from him. Naruto requested from the two of them. Leave it to us Naruto-kun. What about you? Anko asked. Naruto let out a foxy grin as he turned to a certain sexy woman. Eliza come over here. He ordered the curly blonde woman. What is it boss? Eliza asked nervously as she walked up to him. He moved behind her and wrapped an arm around her slender waist and pulled her close. You've been a very naughty girl Eliza. I'm afraid your new boss is going to have to take you to your room and punish you. He said in a deep voice as they both disappeared. Oh no. The boss is not going to kill Eliza, is he? Hanzaki asked as he turned to Anko. Don't worry. If our leader wanted to kill her, he would have done it here. Now let's go inside and talk. Anko said as she and the others started to walk. Yes, Anko-san. Hanzaki said. 30 minutes later Fuma clan's secret base the White Kitty. In Rice Field Country, there were many shinobi clans, including us, the Fuma clan. We were carrying out our duties without a problem until the day that man appeared. Hanzaki started to explain after Tsubaki tended to him and the bandits that were wounded in the battle in the alley. Orochimaru right? Anko asked already knowing who it was. Yes, Anko-san. When he came to this country, there were some of us, our most powerful members, who wanted to use his power to revive our clan. They noticed his evil intentions and thought about joining forces with him. One of those people were the heir of our clan, Arashi. He replied. And because you guys were against it, you were forced out of the village. Yakumo deduced. That's right Yakumo-san. Orochimaru ordered his pawns and even some of our own clan members to do so. We were then chased out of the village and branded as traitors who were in the way of the clan's revival. The former Fuma leader confirmed. So all of you represent the ones who didn't join up with Orochimaru. Hinata said. Yes, Hinata-san. We became bandits because it was the only way to survive. It was not as if we wanted to hurt people. He explained. Well don't worry. Once Naruto-sama takes over at Atagakure, things will get better for you. Kaiu said confidently. Hanzaki nodded at a response. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the Fuma clan's hidden base, a number of concerned bandits stood outside of Eliza's room as they heard her moan in ecstasy, wondering what their new leader was doing to her. What could they be doing in there? One of the bandits asked. What do you think they're doing in there idiot? Another bandit asked sarcastically just as the moan started to slow down and Naruto started to speak. Who are you? Naruto asked behind the door as the bandits leaned in to listen to them. Eliza, a naughty girl. She responded breathlessly. And who am I? He asked her. My boss and leader, Naruto-sama. She gasped. Who am I? The crimson blonde asked again in a loud voice. My lord and master, Naruto-sama. Eliza answered without indecision in a husky voice. Who am I? The dark leader asked her one more time in a louder, authoritative-like voice. My king and god, Naruto-sama. Eliza yelled for the whole base to hear, which caused Naruto to roar in dark laughter. All the guys couldn't believe their ears and took a step back from the door before going back to it a minute later. Very good, Eliza. You're no longer a naughty girl. You're a good girl now. My good girl. To do whatever I please with. Naruto praised as Eliza let out another moan. Yes, master. I'm a good girl now. To do with as you please. She moaned happily. That's right. Now repeat after me, my good girl. You are mine. Heart, body, mind and soul. All that you are is mine. All that you have is mine. Whatever I want, whenever I want it, wherever I want it, and however I want it, you'll always obey your master without question and without resistance for as long as you live. Now say it. He commanded her. I am yours. Heart, body, mind and soul. All that I am is yours. All that I have is yours. Whatever you want, whenever you want it, wherever you want it, and however you want it, I'll always obey my master without question and without resistance for as long as I live. Eliza said obediently and without hesitation. But girl Eliza. Here's your reward. Naruto chuckled. A moment later, Eliza let out a loud moan of pleasure and continued to sing her sexy song. Do you like my reward, Eliza? He asked her in a pleased voice. Yes. Please don't stop. She pleaded desperately. Then moan louder for your master, my good girl. He ordered her. Yes. I will moan for you. Only for you. Eliza said as she did just that. 5 minutes passed until the sexy woman unleashed an earth-shattering, lustful moan as if she just reached her climax. A few minutes later, the door opened and Naruto came out fully clothed while Eliza stopped at the door with her purple dress on, which was now ripped off at the lower half, showing both of her legs and thighs. Everybody stood there stunned because they were trying to figure out how they got their clothes back on so fast if they just had sex, which the bandits assumed they just had. Now you keep being a good girl while I'm gone, and maybe I'll reward you again when I become the Hokage, understand? Naruto requested of her while ignoring the others. Yes, Naruto-sama. Eliza said while looking straight into his eyes as if he was the only one there. The crimson blonde smiled and grabbed the back of her neck gently, ravishing her lips in as if he would devour them. The sexy woman just closed her eyes, lowered her head and just moaned into his mouth as she arched her breasts into his chest, as if she was giving all of herself to him. After breaking the kiss, he walked downstairs with a grin on his face. Eliza, are you alright? Did the boss hurt you? One of the bandits asked in curiosity. I'm fine, guys. Because I'm a good girl now. His good girl. Eliza replied with glazed eyes and a dreamy expression on her face, as if she were in a heavenly nirvana. The bandits just looked at her in disbelief and tried to figure out what happened in her room, not noticing a small glowing red tattoo of a fox on her neck, which mysteriously disappeared as Naruto left. A few minutes later, he came to where Anko, Hanzaki and the others just finished talking. So, how did it go? Naruto asked as he came down the last step. Well, it seems that there are other members of the Fuma clan working for Odo, including their leader. They may be waiting for us when we get to the village. Subaki explained. I see. In that case, we better start heading to Atagakur now. We've wasted enough time. The crimson blonde said. You're the boss, Naruto-kun. Anko joked, making the other girls laugh. Naruto just smirked and let out a light chuckle. Do you want us to come with you, boss? Hanzaki offered. No, Hanzaki. For now, you and the others lay low. Once we take Atagakur, I'll call all of you there. The crimson blonde replied. Understood. We'll see you soon. Please be careful, boss. He said. Don't worry. Let's go, my ladies. We got a village to take. Naruto said. Right. They all said as they left. Hey, Naruto-kun. What did you do with Eliza? Yakumo asked curiously. Oh, I just made her into a good girl instead of a naughty one. The dark leader replied honestly with a mischievous grin. Why, Naruto-kun, you bad boy. You didn't do what I think you did. The snake mistress inquired in her teasing voice. He pulled her close and gave her a quick kiss. Don't be silly, Anko-chan. I'll save that time for you and my beautiful ladies, when the time is right, of course. He answered in a sultry voice, making all of them blush a deep crimson red. Besides, Eliza is just a toy, so to speak. One of many toys that hopefully I'll be able to play with soon. He said with a dark laugh as they left the base. The roads of rice field forest an hour later. After leaving post town, the dark group started to head towards Atagakur, keeping their eyes out for Odo Nin, hoping that they didn't have to kill them, since there would be no point if they're going to take over the village. The more people they had the better. Suddenly, a person wearing a blue ski mask, light blue vest and green shorts, came out of the bushes. Naruto and the others immediately got into a defensive position, but eased up when the person kneeled down and held their shoulder which was covered in blood. Do you think that's an enemy? Hinata asked Naruto in her mind. I don't think so Hinata-chan, but activate your Byakugan just in case, while I find out who it is. Naruto replied. Hinata nodded and activated her Kekkei Genkai while he slowly walked to the injured person. Are you alright? He asked the person in a gentle voice. The person looked up at him with brown eyes which held a hint of fear in them. Don't worry, I'm not your enemy. He reassured the person. Heads up Naruto-kun. Anko shouted as numerous kunai appeared at Naruto and the stranger's area. The crimson blonde quickly scooped the person up in his arms as he jumps in the air. But a man with a scar over his eye tries to get behind Naruto to stab him with a kunai. Sensing that her master needed assistance, Caillou quickly gets behind the man while chakra starts to glow from her tail. Tetsubi, Iron Tail. She shouted as she swings her tail and hits him in the back, knocking him to the ground, or so she thought as he disappeared in a puff of smoke and a wooden log appeared instead. Damn. That ugly human used a Kawaremi no Jutsu, replacement technique. The Crimson Beauty cursed. Thanks for the save Caillou-chan. Naruto said as he landed with the stranger. My pleasure Naruto-sama. I'll get him next time. She said as she landed as well. You're not bad. But this does not concern you. Give her to us and we'll let you live. A voice said out of nowhere. So you're a girl huh? Naruto said quietly so only she could hear. The stranger only nodded silently while shaking like a leaf, for fear that he was going to give her to them. But Naruto gave her a smile as if telling her not to worry, which made her blush through her mask and relax. The moment you tried to kill me, it concerned me. And that will be the final mistake you make. He growled. Then you leave us no choice. Kill them all. The voice said as kunai and shuriken came out at Naruto, Caillou and the others. They easily dodged them all and got ready to fight back. Subaki-chan, protect the girl and take her to a safe place. The rest of you seek and destroy while Caillou-chan uses Fukase no Kon, duplication of the soul, on them if she can. I'll stick around here and deal with the one that's hiding. Naruto said to his team telepathically. Right. They said simultaneously as they landed. Naruto quickly handed the girl to Tsubaki while Caillou used the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to create a clone of herself. Hinata, Yakumo and the Caillou clone went in one direction while Anko and the real Caillou went in another direction as they jumped into the forest. As Hinata's group heads into the forest, a large pincer blade spins at them to cut them in half. They quickly dodge it while a few Odo nins try to ambush them. Bracing herself, the beautiful Hyuga girl parries the kunai of one of the nins and easily counters him with a quick palm thrust to the chest and a kick, throwing into the ground. The Caillou clone gets into a kunai fight with the second one. The vixen jumps away from him to get a better leverage, but the enemy tries to throw a kunai at her from behind. The clone senses this and uses the Tetsubi to deflect the weapon right back at him, which pierces right through his chest. Finally, Yakumo looks at the handiwork of the other two girls, but the third and final Odo nin stabs her in the back. Or so he thought as the Jinjutsu maiden explodes into a cloud of cherry blossom petals. The ninja gasps in disbelief at what he saw, but begins to scream in horror as the petals started to consume and dissolve his body until he was gone from this world. The petals began to reform into Yakumo, and the three women landed on the ground. We know that you're hiding, so you might as well come out and face us. Hinata shouted out into the open. A man with a pincer weapon on his arm appeared. I can't believe you were able to take them all out. But I won't be so easy. The man said. But those boastful words rung hollow as the Caillou clone appeared behind him. You're right human. Taking you out will be easier. Mijutsu. Fukase no Kon. She shouted as she placed her hand into his body, making him scream in pain, pulling out a crystal sphere a minute later. Hinata, Yakumo, I leave him to you. She said she took his weapon and jumped away from him. May I Yakumo? The Hyuga girl asked her comrade in a polite tone. He's all yours Hinata. She said. The Juken user walks up to him and picks him up by his collar. Sorry, but when you attacked us, you condemned yourself to death. Hinata said with a hard face at the end as she tossed him up in the air slightly and hit the man's body with several palm attacks at supersonic speed before he landed, which was invisible to the naked eye. Haki Sho Ranbu, palm dance of divination. She shouted after the last hit as the man fell to the ground in a lifeless heap. I hope the others are okay. Yakumo said as the three of them started to head back. Anko and Caillou. On the other side of the forest, the Snake Mistress and the Crimson Beauty weren't having too much trouble as they took out their three Odo ambushers quickly with sword and claw attacks, respectively. Damn, where the hell is that last one hiding? Anko grumbled angrily. Don't worry Anko, I'll find him. Caillou answered calmly as she used her telepathic abilities to see if the last man with the scar on his eye was close. There. She shouted as they were about to run into some spiderwebs. Acting quickly, the vixen made some quick unusual hand seals and shouted Kaiten Mijutsu. Kitsune Ken Hishaki, fire release demonic technique. Fox flamethrower. As she unleashed a concentrated and continuous jet of dark red flame from her mouth, burning right through the webs like a hot knife through butter. Using Kusanagi, Anko cut the rest of the burning webs to prevent the two of them from getting singed. As the burning webs fell to the forest floor, the man finally came out and tries to escape through the trees on a spiderweb. Caillou sees this and aims her fire attack at his web to cut it and he falls to the ground. Like a shark smelling blood in the water, Caillou stops breathing fire and makes the seals for the Fukase no Kon. She lands right next to him on the ground and puts her chakra-covered hand into his stomach, making the man scream in pain until she pulls out a crystal sphere. Thank you human. My master will use this well. Caillou said with a smile. Out of the way Caillou. This guy is mine. Anko said excitedly. Caillou does what she asks and jumps away as the snake mistress replaces her spot and kicks him into the air. Jumping after him, she kicks him again so he can go even higher and then disappears. A second later, she appears on top of his shoulders and begins to spin herself along with him at great speeds. Konoha Kanrasha, leaf Ferris wheel. She shouts as she spins him deep into the ground until her feet touches the surface, effectively burying him alive. That's all of the enemies Anko. Let's head back to Naruto-sama. Caillou said to her. Yeah. Nothing else to do here. The snake mistress agreed as they jumped back into the trees. Naruto. Meanwhile, the crimson blonde stood in the middle of the road very calmly. My enemy is close. I can feel it. And yet, I can also feel that this person is a kindred spirit like the others. Naruto though to himself. How long are you going to hide from me? If you're planning to kill me, then come on. He taunted. One is born and another lives. One dies and another wilts. A Kagero's life is as brief as a day. For a fleeting moment, do you have pity? Is it your duty to live in darkness? The voice asks cryptically. I've lived in darkness for a long time thanks to certain people, just as you have from what I've sensed of you. But that doesn't mean you have to live that way alone, Kagero. The crimson blonde replied in a compassionate voice, which took his enemy by surprise. How does he know my name? How did he know that I the enemy thought? But the person shook the thought out and prepared to attack. Orijigoku no Jutsu, Antlion technique. The enemy shouted as the ground around Naruto began to collapse and turn into a large pit. The dark leader began to run and around the upper edges of the falling earth and jumps out of it. A kunai from the center of the pit hits him in the back, which makes him disappear in a poof. A shadow clone. The enemy thought in the center of the pit as he suddenly felt someone above him. Naruto appears above the enemy and tries to punch him in the center of the pit, but the enemy jumps out just in time and avoids the hit. But that Naruto disappears in a puff of smoke again. That was another clone. Where is he? The hunchback man thought erratically. He gets his answer as the real Naruto appears behind him. Congratulations, you took my bait. Naruto said as he grabbed his long arm and throws him into the ground, creating a small crater. As Naruto landed, the hunchback man slowly got up. So you recovered. I'm not surprised, since I held back on that throw. He said with a small smile. How did you counter my earth technique? Kagero asked out of curiosity. While we were talking, I made a couple of clones just in case you pulled something like this. I figured if you saw me come at you head on, you'd panic and leave your safe spot in the center of the pit to defend yourself, which left you open for a counterattack. He explained. Very clever. It appears I underestimated him. The hunchback thought. But never mind that. I can tell you are not who you appear to be. There is more to you than meets the eye. He told the man with a clever smile. Very perceptive. What you say is true. When an antlion larva comes up from the ground and spreads its wings from its shell, that is the only time when it shows its radiance. And that is when I die too. The enemy told him. Then I ask of you, show me how radiant you are. The dark leader requested. As you wish, he said with a hint of happiness in his voice as his body began to strangely change. His body became a brownish color, as if it was a cocoon-like shell, and then suddenly breaks apart. A minute later, a blue light comes bursting out of the shell, which changed into a rainbow-like color. It was at that point that a slightly pale but beautiful girl with green hair, misty blue eyes and wearing a white sundress came out of the cocoon with rainbow-colored dragonfly wings on her back. The man, who was truly a young woman in disguise, looked at her opponent with a straight face, strangely wondering what he was thinking. Your radiance is beautiful just like you. Naruto said surprisingly with a warm smile, making her gasp in amazement. Thank you for the kind words. The true Kagero said with a flushed face and a smile after hearing the compliment. I was just being honest. But why is a radiant soul like yours work for a snake like Orochimaru? The crimson blonde asked as he got serious. Orochimaru-sama promised the Fuma clan a place where the sun will reach it. The young woman answered. For someone who possesses the rare ability to fly, you should know that if you fly too close to the sun, you'll only burn yourself. He told her bluntly, which made her gasp once more. You're keeping the promise of a dead man who cared nothing about you, your clan or your dreams. That's one of the reasons why I killed the slimy bastard. If I had joined him he would have just used me and threw me away, just like you. He added with a slight growl. Why you killed Orochimaru-sama? Kijiro asked incredulously. Naruto silently nodded in confirmation. Then I have no choice but to defeat you. She said with a hint of sadness. Don't do it. If this keeps up, you know how it will end, Naruto said with a frown. Even so, for that goal and in the name of our clan, I will use this once-in-a-lifetime technique. She said as she flew into the air and began to make unusual hand seals. Something big is coming. I better get ready for the worst. Naruto thought as he started to make unusual hand seals of his own. Utakata, ephemeral vengeance. She shouted as her wings spread out and became pure and powerful chakra, raining down on Naruto at high speeds. Here goes. He thought just as the powerful chakra came upon him, creating a large cloud of smoke. A minute later, her rainbow wings returned to normal, but with holes in them. I am sorry. I had no choice but to kill you in the name of our dream. Even though we only met for a fleeting moment, you were the first person to show me true kindness and concern, and for that I thank you. I wish you were not my enemy and we had met in a different time and place before all of this had happened. She thought regretfully as she frowned in sorrow. But as the smoke cleared, she gasps and her eyes widen in pure astonishment to see Naruto unscathed inside a crater, surrounded by a dark red chakra shield that was the shape of a fox's head. Phew. It's a good thing that I used my Mijutsu. Nikatsubasha Tate, demonic technique. Red luster shield, in the nick of time. If I had been caught by that attack at full blast, I would have been seriously hurt. He thought honestly as the shield disappeared. He looked up at her, and they both looked at each other with somber expressions. Why? I told you how this would end. You knew as well and yet you still. He drifted off as he looked into her misty blue eyes for answers. I trusted him. Despite what he did to me, the experiments he did on me, I believed that the clan would once again shine like the sun. Despite my feelings and what I've done, I trusted that. Kijiro said as tears of sorrow fell out of her eyes. Kijiro, Naruto said dismally. I understand how you feel, Kijiro. More than you know. He thought to himself. A moment later, Kijiro starts to glow, and her wings suddenly disappeared as she went unconscious and began to fall to the ground. Reacting quickly, Naruto rushes to her and catches her in his arms just as she was about to land. Taking a moment to compose himself, the dark leader looks down at her and brushes a few stray hairs from her face. Her chakra levels are at a critical state. In a few minutes, she'll die. He deduced to himself. Kijiro. A name that means something short-lived. In many ways, you and I are very much alike. I too have been hurt, used and betrayed by people I trusted and believed in. Such a beautiful and radiant soul like yours should not be short-lived. You should be able to fly like the wind and have the sun shining down on you. And someone you can trust and truly believe in. For that, I shall give you a second chance at life. A second chance at life with you by my side. Naruto decreed as he gently placed the young woman on the ground. Making some unusual hand seals, his chakra tails appear from behind him and begin to rain down red chakra and yoki in an attempt to save her life. 10 minutes later, the dark energies disappeared, which showed that Kijiro's appearance had changed drastically. The young woman, who now looked like she was in her mid-20s, was now wearing a sleeveless collar top that was half white and half blue, that had a red spiral in the back and was cut at the stomach, along with customized blue kunoichi pants and sandals. Like Yakumo, she was no longer pale, and her features were full of color, and her body was very mature. Along with her green hair, which now reached to her shoulders and was a darker color, Kijiro had decent curves, a nice sized chest which was slightly bigger than Yakumo's, and sparkling misty blue eyes. The woman began to stir and open her eyes to see Naruto looking down at her with a smile on his face. Welcome back, Kijiro. Naruto said warmly as he reached out his hand. As if on instinct, she took it and he lifted her up from off the ground. Why did you save me? Even after I tried to kill you? Kijiro asked in confusion. You deserve a second chance at life, Kijiro-chan. Besides, believe it or not, I can relate to the pain you went through. You're not alone on that and you don't have to face it alone. Not anymore. He replied truthfully as he gave her a smile. The young woman began to cry and she fell into his arms. He held her close and stroked her long hair to soothe her wounded soul. Even though she barely knew him, she felt safe, protected and loved in his embrace. She truly enjoyed the feeling. It was something she hadn't felt in a long time. He pulled her away slightly to look at her. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Welcome to Corison, Kijiro-chan. He said happily. Thank you, Naruto-sama. For giving me another chance at life, I give myself to you in order to make your dreams come true. she said with a warm smile to him. Our dreams, Kajero-chan. The crimson blonde corrected in a gentle voice as he leaned forward and kissed her softly on the lips. I can feel his love and his warmth flowing through my body. I've never felt so happy. It feels as if the warm sun is shining down on me. Kajero thought blissfully as she let out a soft moan while he stroked her back. A minute later, he wiped her tears and he released her. It was at that time that the remaining group returned to the spot they were originally at. Looks like we have a new member of our growing family. Anko said as her and Caillou walked up to them. Yes. I'm Fuma Kajero. It's nice to meet you all. She said with a light blush on her face. Kajero-chan has very unique abilities and jutsus, as well as the ability to fly and teleport. She will be a very useful addition to us. Naruto explained to us. Well, we're glad to have you. Hinata said politely as her group appeared as well. All the enemies have been neutralized, Naruto-kun. Yakumo reported. I managed to get 2 crystals and a pincer weapon which I sealed into a scroll, Naruto-sama. Caillou said as her and her clone handed over the items, making the clone disappear. Good job, my ladies. Now all we need to do is wait for Tsubaki-chan to return. The Dark Leader said boisterously. All of them nodded in agreement. A minute later, the Mednin returned with a mysterious stranger she was protecting. Are you two alright, Tsubaki-chan? He asked with concern as he walked up to her and hugged her. Yes, Naruto-kun. We're just fine. Well, we took cover, I had a chance to heal our mystery person's wounds. She said. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're alright. He said as he turned his attention to the stranger. The stranger lowered her head and blushed in embarrassment through her mask. There's no need to be shy. You're among friends. Why don't you show us your face? Hinata requested in her soft voice. The stranger was hesitant at first, but slowly nodded and took off the ski mask. Her beautiful orange-brown hair flowed out of the hat, which complemented her cute face. She turned her head away slightly with rose-colored cheeks as she looked in the eyes of her original savior in the dark cloak as he smiled at her. My name is Fuma Sasam. Thank you very much for saving me. Sasam said in a soft voice as she gave a small bow to Naruto. The crimson blonde nodded his head slightly as a show of respect. Sasam-san, Kajero said as she slowly walked up to the young girl. Kajero-san, is that you? She asked. Yes, but I'm with Naruto-kun now. The old Kajero no longer exists. Still, that doesn't excuse my past actions towards you. I'm really sorry that I tried to kill you. I hope you can forgive me. The green-haired beauty said as she lowered her head. Kajero-chan, Naruto said with a sad smile. It's alright, Kajero-san. I forgive you. The orange-haired girl said with a smile. Thank you, Sasam-san. Kajero said as she breathed a sigh of relief. As much fun as it is to stay and chat, we should find a place to hide before reinforcements arrive. Anko said out of the blue. You're right. We should find a place to rest up for a while. Subaki agreed. Kajero-chan, do you know of any places to rest? Naruto inquired. Yes. There are many abandoned temples around the forest that Oda patrols don't go to. Kajero replied as she rubbed her chin. Can you teleport us to one of them? He asked her. My old self definitely couldn't, but I can do it easily now. She said happily. Making an unusual hand seal, her rainbow wings appeared on her back as blue chakra covered the group, making them disappear several seconds later. Abandoned temple 10 minutes later. I don't sense any Odo ninjas. We should be safe here for a while. Hinata said as she deactivated her Byakugan. After taking some time to eat, the group started to talk to Sasam. Sasam-chan, you carry the same name as Kajero-chan. Are you part of the Fuma clan? Naruto asked out of curiosity. You know about them? Sasam asked back. Yeah, well, we met their leader at Post Town. Yakumo replied truthfully while leaving out certain details. Should we tell her that you're the leader of them, my master? Caillou asked telepathically. Not yet. Let's see what she has to say. He replied. Those bandits are traitors who left the clan. The orange-haired girl said angrily. Traitors to the clan, Hinata said in befuddlement as Kajero, who was standing in the corner, lowered her head in shame. The crimson blonde said quietly as he looked at Kajero and Sasam. It's just like Hanzaki, said Anko, thought to herself. Did they try anything? She inquired. They were after some travel money from us while we asked about Orochimaru and Itagakure. It turns out they didn't know anything. Caillou answered. I can guide you to Itagakure. Sasam offered. Thanks for the offer, but we already know how to get there. The snake mistress said. But I'm curious about something. Why were those Odonin were after you? She questioned. If it's alright with you, please tell us. Subaki requested. The young girl lowered her head for a minute and took a deep breath before she began to speak. Kajero-chan. For the moment, please remain silent. Naruto requested to her in her mind. I understand, Naruto-kun. She nodded to him silently. Those men were Odonin that guarded the mansion that belongs to Orochimaru, as well as the passage to Itagakure. Sasam began to explain to them. I see. Can you tell us more? Yakumo requested. Yes. It began when Rice Field Country's feudal lord Ryoshu wanted to increase his supply of provisions and land, and a war had just begun in Kinjin country. As you've noticed, Rice Field Country is very small and shinobi are limited. It was a hopeless war and it was obvious that we were going to lose. I lost most of my family, including my parents. And in the aftermath, the ones who survived abandoned their country, while others lost their dignity and became thieves. The orange-haired girl continued. That's how war is. A stupid shepherd always leads his mindless lambs to the slaughter. Anko said bitterly. Anko-chan. Naruto scolded angrily. The snake mistress looked over to him as if to ask him what his problem was. He motioned his head to Sasam as the young girl lowered her head in sadness and had a look on her face as if she was about to cry. I'm sorry Sasam. I was out of line. Anko said softly as she lowered her head in shame for her thoughtless comment. That's alright. I'll be okay. Sasam said as she lifted her head and gave her a small smile. Taking another deep breath, she moved on with her tale. Despite what the war did to us, we believed that we would revive. So we hid in the shadows and continued to survive. At that time, the one who appeared before us was a person who said he was trying to expand the country. She said. Orochimaru right? Yakumo asked. Sasam nodded her head in confirmation. He told us he was collecting all of the jutsu in the world and he was interested in our clan's abilities. And that if we worked hard, we would be able to serve our lord. Arashi Naichin, my cousin, who was the clan's hope for revival, was the first to volunteer. He went as the representative of our clan along with many others. We waited for a message from him, but no word came. However, we did hear rumors that Orochimaru was doing strange experiments with members of our clan when the remaining ones who joined him mysteriously disappeared. If anything has happened to him Sasam finished as she began to sob. Sasam Hinata said with a frown. That's why I'm going to Atogakure. I want to save Arashi Naichin. She shouted. Naruto said again as he scowled. But Sasam Subaki began. I know that I'm weak and that my body is small. No matter what I did, I was always a burden. And because of that, Arashi Naichin always came to save me. Everyone in the village has already given up on seeing everyone again. That's why I'm going to Atogakure alone. I need to know. I need to know if he's alive. She said with total conviction. Sasam-san Kajero said quietly with a hint of guilt. This time, if he's in danger. I'll be the one to save him. Sasam shouted as she got up, but Winston kneeled in pain as she held her still slightly injured shoulder. Easy Sasam, you're still not fully recovered yet. Subaki said as she rushed by her side and held her shoulders from behind. I just want to be Arashi Naichin's strength. The orange-haired girl cried. Well Naruto-kun, what do you want to do? Anko inquired as everyone turned to him. He closed his eyes as if he was in deep thought for a few minutes, then he opened his eyes and began to speak. Well we're heading to Atogakure anyway. And as the head of the Fuma clan in Post Town and your savior, I have to look out for you. So we'll do what we can for your cousin. Naruto replied with a straight face. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sasam said happily as she fully bowed to him with a small blush on her face. Alright already. You don't need to bow to me. It's embarrassing. He said with a blush of his own causing his ladies to laugh at him. This continued for a minute before he started to get serious. But let me explain something to you Sasam-chan. I'm going to Atogakure to seize it. No more, no less. If your brother doesn't listen to reason and he gets in my way, I won't hesitate to kill him. Do you understand? He told her in a deadly serious tone. Yes Naruto, I understand. I'm sorry for being such a burden. The orange-haired girl apologized to him. Don't say such things. You're not a burden to me Sasam-chan. I just don't want you to get your hopes up too high. Sometimes, there are no happy endings he said with a hint of melancholy in his voice. Naruto-kun Yakumo said as she placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Let's go he said as the women followed him and headed out of the temple. Atogakure's entrance 15 minutes later. As the dark group and Sasam jumped through the trees, Naruto and the others tensed up and stayed alert because there was little to no defenses around the area, which to an experienced ninja, are highly unusual. As they stopped several feet away from the village, Sasam grunted in pain and held her still wounded shoulder. Your wound hasn't healed yet, so don't push yourself. Subaki warned as she gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Yes. Sorry. Sasam said. Naruto-kun, this is the entrance to Atogakure. Kajero said as she pointed at it. Alright, let's proceed with caution. Subaki-chan, watch over Sasam-chan. Yakumo-chan and Hinata-chan, you take the rear in case this is a trap. Kajero-chan, keep an eye for us from the sky. Anko-chan and Kayu-chan, you're up front with me. Naruto commanded his group. Got it. They all said as they nodded in agreement. They continued on and moved in a defensive formation while Kajero covered them from the air. They finally reached the entrance and sensed a presence coming out. They all got into battle stances as a young man with grey hair walked out. Well done getting this far Sasam. The young man said as he lifted his head. Arashi Naichin. Sasam said joyfully as she started to run towards them. But suddenly Naruto grabbed her by the arm and pulled her back. "Wait, Sasam-chan. Don't go near him." The crimson blonde shouted to her. But the orange-haired girl protested. "Hinata-chan," he said as he turned his head slightly to her. Hinata nodded in understanding, knowing what he was going to ask. "Byakugan," she shouted as she activated her Kekkei Genkai. A minute later, the beautiful girl shrieked in horror. "Do you see it?" he asked her in a dreadful tone. "Yes," the beautiful Hyuga replied joylessly. What? What's going on?" Sasam asked in confusion. "I'm afraid your little cousin is no longer human," Anko said honestly. "That can't be." The young girl shouted in disbelief as she tried to break free from Naruto's grasp. "They speak the truth," Sasam Arashi said in confirmation. "What do you mean, Arashi Naichin? I don't understand. How can you no longer be human?" Sasam asked, refusing to see the truth. Her cousin let out a dark laugh. "It's simple. I am no longer Arashi," he replied as his shirt fell off and his upper body began to change as numerous faces began to form all over his chest and arms and his eyes turned an eerie yellow. "What in the name of Kami?" Yakumo said as she covered her mouth in shock and disgust. "The bodies that you all killed have been collected within me. Thanks to Orochimaru-sama, I have been reborn to become the strongest ninja," Arashi said in an otherworldly voice as he let out an evil laugh. Arashi Naichin Sasam sobbed as she fell to her knees and cried. Sasam Hinata said with a slightly lowered head. "Now I'll show you all my strongest ninja technique," he said. Naruto-sama, Kaiju said with a serious expression as she silently turned to her master. "I know, Kaiju-chan, we have no choice," Naruto said grimly. "Naruto-kun," Sasam said as she stood up and looked at him with pleading eyes. "So, you're the Uzumaki Naruto I heard about. The so-called demon brat of Konoha," Arashi said in a mocking tone. "Flattery will get you nowhere, monster. I don't want to kill you because I promised Sasam-chan, but I will if I have to. I will enter a Togakur even if I have to go through you. So get out of our way." He roared at him with his red eyes glowing. "Is that so? Then come and defeat me. Were I still a coward in the past, I might have been afraid, but demon or not, I will kill you," Arashi said as the faces on him moaned and groaned. "Arashi Naichin, please stop," Sasam shouted. "Shut up. The Arashi of old is already dead. What you see before you is lumps of flesh brought to life, courtesy of the Shisakugutsu no Jutsu, casualty puppet technique," he told her as he started to grow larger and laugh manically, making Sasam scream in horror. "Subaki-chan, take care of Sasam-chan for me," Naruto requested as he took off his cape and threw it away. "I understand, Naruto-kun. Please be careful," the Mednin said as she took the young girl's hand and pulled her away. "Stop, Naruto-kun. Please don't kill him," the orange-haired girl pleaded hysterically as she tried to break free from Tsubaki's grip. "That's enough, Sasam-chan," he yelled at her angrily, making her stop in her tracks. "I'm sorry, but like he said, he is no longer the kind Arashi that you knew," he told her in a much softer voice. Sasam lowered her head at this and no longer resisted. Tsubaki looked at her leader and he nodded silently to her. She returned it and headed to safety. "Corison, let's kick some ass," he shouted to the others. "Yeah." Anko, Kaiju, Yakumo and Hinata shouted. "No." Sasam yelled as she was pulled away by Tsubaki. "Pajero-chan, keep an eye out for any Odo ninjas that might try to surprise us. We'll handle the rest," Naruto told her telepathically. "Okay, Naruto-kun. Good luck," the green-haired beauty said from the skies. With everything set, the 4-on-1 battle began. They came at him from all four sides as Naruto went to the front, Anko swerved to hit him in the back, Hinata was coming from his left, and Yakumo tried to attack him from the right. Using his large lumps of flesh he created a barrier around himself. This guy doesn't think this flimsy barrier can stop us," Anko thought as they were prepared to cut it down. But suddenly, a number of faces appeared and suddenly they said Odoten. Nanami Hiki, sound release. Sound wave burst. And unleashed a super powerful screaming shockwave, stopping all of them in their tracks and making them cover their ears. Ahhh. Too loud, Hinata and Yakumo screamed in pain as they fell to one knee while covering their ears. "My ears," the pain Kaiju whimpered in agony. Damn, I feel so dizzy." "Stop the ringing," Anko said as she moved back while blood trickled out of her ears. All those screaming voices at once got to find a way to break it. Naruto said as well as he covered his ears and tried to find a way to break through the sound shockwave until suddenly, it completely stopped. They quickly learned the reason why as the flesh shield Arashi made came down and he had his hands in a pyramid-like seal. "Ibaku Mandara, self-destruction mandala," he shouted as he threw a pyramid chakra cage at Yakumo and captured her, who recovered slower than the others. He closed the pyramid-like seal and the Jinjutsu maiden screamed in pain as the box began to constrict and crush her. "Yakumo-chan," Naruto called out to her as he tried to run to her. "Don't even think about it. If you come closer, I'll crush your little girlfriend right here and now. And even if you break it, there's a chance you'll destroy her and the others. Are you willing to take that risk? Arashi said with a laugh as he constricted it a little more, making Yakumo scream as she pressed her hands hard on top of the cage, trying to break free. DCH dirty ass cheater. Anko growled as she wiped the blood that still came from her ears. Damn it. I have to distract him so I can save Yakumo-chan. But how, without getting her crushed? He said as he tried to think up a plan quick. It would seem he didn't need to as Sasam came from out of nowhere and rushed him from the side. Arashi Naichin. Sasam shouted as she continued to run while holding a kunai in her hand. Taking a small leap she stabbed one of the heads, making it scream and melt away from his horrific flesh. Sasam, how dare you? Arashi shouted in anger as he turned to her. Sasam. Hinata shouted as she still recovered from the inertia of the sound attack. Arashi Naichin, please wake up. Please go back to the way you were. She shouted as tears fell from her eyes. You stupid brat. Arashi shouted as he grabbed her by her collar and tossed her away. I told you. Arashi is dead. He bellowed as a lump of his flesh changed and hardened into a sword which was aimed at her heart. AHHH. The orange-haired girl screamed, knowing that she wouldn't dodge it in time. But death never came as Naruto jumps in front of her and takes the hit as the fleshy sword goes right through his stomach to the point where the tip is showing. Naruto-sama. Corison yelled in unison as he coughed up blood. And Naruto-kun, Sasam said as a wave of guilt hits her heart. Idiot. Do you think that you'll save him by throwing your life away? Is that what the real Arashi would want? Naruto asked Sasam in a raspy voice as he coughed up more blood. Naruto-kun, I'm so sorry. She responds shamefully as she starts to cry harder. I just wanted to, she stammered. I know, Sasam-chan. It's okay, he said, giving her a bloody smile. Then the most amazing thing occurs as Arashi suddenly gasps and his eerie yellow eyes change back to his normal ones. The others notice this as the fleshy sword is removed from Naruto's body, making him fall to one knee. Arashi Naichin, are you? The orange-haired said as she looked into his eyes. Sasam, I'm sorry. I wanted power so that the light would shine on the Fuma clan once again. So I allowed Orochimaru-sama to do a number of experiments on me until I became this. Arashi said regrettably in his normal voice. That doesn't matter now. It's okay now. Let's go home together. Sasam said with a smile to her cousin. But he sadly shakes his head. I told you, Sasam. Like Naruto-kun said, I'm a monster now. He told her honestly. That's not true. She shouted. Sasam-chan, Naruto groaned as his stomach began to heal up. It was then that Arashi grabbed his head and started to groan in pain. It hurt so much. Naruto-kun, Sasam, please. Please kill me before Arashi gets a chance to finish. The fleshy face that Sasam killed reforms and his eyes change back to yellow. This time you'll both die. He said as his voice returned to the evil monstrous one. Arashi Naichin. Sasam shouted as the fleshy hand returned and tried to strike her. But Naruto quickly moves in front of her and grabs it while dark red chakra swirls around him. I understand, Arashi. Naruto said as his hair covered his eyes. Naruto-kun, no, the orange-haired girl said above a whisper. Sasam-chan, do you think it's kindness to let him live like this? He asked her in a quiet voice, making the young girl eyes widen. To let your cousin live in eternal pain. He added. Naruto-kun, Anko said quietly. I may be just a demon who now lives in darkness. And in many ways, I guess you could say that I'm a monster like your cousin is now. But the people around me are more than just my ladies. They're my companions, my friends, my comrades and my mates. I love them just like they love me. And I would never let someone I love suffer. The crimson blonde said proudly and without hesitation. Naruto-kun, they all said warmly to him in his mind. I know it hurts to see him like this. But if you truly love him, if you truly want to save him, then don't stop me. Because now that he's accepted his fate, I'm not holding back any longer. The dark leader yelled throughout the whole forest as the evil Arashi's eyes showed fear when Naruto looked at him with his red eyes ablaze. Using the fleshy hand he caught, he pulled Arashi toward him as red chakra covered both of his hands, turning into the shape of claws. He hits Arashi with a downward slash, which destroys a number of his faces. He then follows up with an upward slash, which was quickly followed up with another one, which launched the large disfigured man in the air. The crimson blonde quickly follows him and hits him with numerous high-speed slashes, ending with one that throws Arashi away from him. He then shoots out his dark red chakra, changing it into a hand, and grabs Arashi to pull him back. Finally, he focuses dark red chakra into his right hand and hits Arashi with it in a bone-shattering blow, screaming Kyubi de Chikara, nine-tailed great strength. As it connects, the evil Arashi opens his mouth in a silent scream as he falls to the ground at great speed, breaking his concentration enough for Yakumo to break free from her chakra cage. Anko and the others jump away when she breaks free to prevent getting caught in the blast. It's over, Hinata said. Yeah, Anko said. As the smoke cleared and Naruto landed on the ground, he looked around to check if everyone's alright. "Naruto-kun." Yakumo shouted as she ran to him. "Ikumo-chan." He shouted back as she jumped into his embrace. He held her close and kissed her happily. "I'm so glad that you're safe," he told her after breaking the kiss. "Yes, thanks to you. I'm sorry, I was careless," she said apologetically. "Don't worry about it. You and the others are safe. That's all that matters to me," he told her with a smile. "Thank you Naru-kun," the Genjutsu maiden said while blushing as they walked to where the others were grouped together. Sasam and Kajero were kneeling next to Arashi, whose body was completely removed of the horrific flesh. Arashi, Naich and Sasam sobbed as the young man placed a hand on her head. "I'm sorry Sasam. I caused you so much pain and sorrow. Please forgive me," Arashi said somberly as he coughed up blood. "No. You're the one who's faced the most pain. What can I do for you? What should I do for you?" she asked as she took his hand and squeezed it. "You don't have to do anything for me. You've already saved me. Because of you, Naruto-kun and his friends, I was able to return to the person I used to be, at least for a moment," he told her while giving her a smile. Arashi-sama, Kajero said quietly with a frown on her face. "Kajero-chan, I'm so sorry that I caused you, Jigumo, Kamakiri and the others so much pain," Arashi said dismally. "But we did it to restore the clan," the green-haired beauty said. "And that led us to our downfall. We became so obsessed with it that we lost who we truly were. We let Orochimaru use us to this end. You know that it's true," he told her. Kajero lowered her head in disgrace, knowing that the young man was right in what he said. Mainly because if it wasn't for Naruto, she would be dead, just like her comrades. "Naruto-kun, no, Naruto-sama," he called out to him as he quietly walked up to the others with Yakumo by his side. Naruto said tiredly. "I heard a rumor that you killed Orochimaru. Is this true?" Arashi asked. "Yeah, I killed that snake bastard," he said truthfully. "I see," the young man said as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a crest that had the Fuma clan symbol on it, tossing it to Naruto. "I give this to you then as a thank you for killing him and for looking out for Sasam, Kajero-chan and the clan. Please take care of them and look after them. I have a feeling they'll be safe and grow strong with you," he said while looking at them with a smile. Arashi-sama, Kajero said as tears started to fall from her eyes. Arashi, Naich and Sasam cried as well. Naruto looked down at the crest in his hand that signify him as the leader of the Fuma clan and clenched it in his hand. "You have my word Arashi. I'll take care of them. But I'll need something from you to do that," Naruto said to him. "Take what you need from me. Hurry, before I die," he said. Naruto nodded and used the Fukusei no Kan to take a crystal sphere from his body. "Your knowledge and abilities, with the exception of that damn jutsu, will be used well," the crimson blonde said as he put the crystal sphere away. Arashi nodded weakly in understanding. "Sasam, Kajero-chan, serve Naruto-sama well. I'll pray to Kami that you both find happiness with him," the young man said to them both. "Arashi, Naichin, please don't die. Please don't leave me," the orange-haired girl pleaded in a hoarse voice. It was at that moment that the lumps of flesh that was once part of Arashi but lay dormant started to stir. Not taking any chances, Naruto immediately grabbed the girls and pulled them away while the others jumped back as it came to life once more. "I'm already a puppet Sasam. But at least I can die as myself," Arashi said as he turned to Naruto and gave him an expression as if he was silently trying to tell him to kill him. Naruto let the two Fuma girls go and took a few steps forward. He grimly nodded back to the young man and made an unusual hand seal. "Arashi, rest in peace. Kaiten Majutsu. Kitsune Tama, fire release demonic technique. Fox bullet," Naruto said joylessly as he shot a dark red fireball out of his mouth at the young man. "Nu." Arashi Niachan. Sasam screamed as she tried to run to her cousin, only to have Kajero hold her back. "Goodbye Sasam," Arashi said as he gave his cousin one last smile before being engulfed in dark flames. The lumps of flesh let out a final eerie wail until everything was silent and nothing was left. The dark group was quiet for several long minutes until Sasam turned to Naruto and punched him in the chest. "Liar. You promised to do what you could for Arashi Naichin, you promised," the orange-haired girl said hysterically as she continued to punch him in the chest. Naruto said nothing and looked at her sadly, as if he was telling her "I'm sorry. Sasam-san," Kajero said as she tried to walk up to her to stop her, but Subaki grabbed her shoulder and shook her head, silently telling her not to interfere. "You promised Naruto-kun, you promised liar, you promised," she repeated over and over until she slowed down with the punches until stopping completely. Naruto just pulled her into a comforting and consoling hug. Sasam buried her head into his chest and embraced him back and let out all of her pain right then and there. All of the girls except Anko started to tear up as well. The snake mistress just lowered her head slightly since she had experience with this sort of thing, while Naruto just closed his eyes and just held the orange-haired girl. "That damn bastard Orochimaru. Even in death, he still uses people like pawns," Anko spat bitterly. Yes. It's unforgivable. Hinata said in agreement with a scowl on her face. Many needless sacrifices have been made just so he could learn all the jutsus in the world. But things are going to start from scratch from this point on. Subaki said in a serious voice. Agreed. It's time that these sound bastards know who's in charge. Yakumo said as she clenched her fists. I'm ready to beat some sense into these humans, master. Caillou said. Good, because after what just happened, I'm officially pissed the hell off. Naruto said as he opened his eyes and they shined a deep crimson. He let out a feral roar of anger. A roar that he was sure the sound ninjas that were waiting for him inside would hear. And he wanted them to hear it. Because they would learn soon enough not to face a demon who's in a foul mood.